basic education. The Premier, of course, will be accompanying the President there. We'll be speaking to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Minister Velinkosini Hlabisa, who had been there on the ground for the better part of the last couple of days since the start of about Tuesday or so. We're also going to be in conversation this morning, with the Minister of Basic Education in the same hour. 74 schools had been damaged by the floods and the snow and the storm. We're going to be speaking to the Minister about the support there of the nearly 70 or approximately 70 people having died in the Eastern Cape. Many of them are children, with schools having been affected. The taxi that had 13 children in it that had been swept away by the floods was all children from one school. Some of them had died, some are still missing, and some of them are injured. We're going to be speaking to the Minister there as well. However, in the first hour of the show, we're going to be speaking to Mukau. You would know them as the Mining Affected Communities United Action Group. They take issue with the President's National Dialogue Persons or Eminent Persons Group, saying that community and artisanal miners in particular, mining communities and artisanal miners, have been left out of the conversation, so to speak, and aren't represented amongst the eminent persons. Well, they're not the only one. There are many other groups that are raising alarms and complaints about who of their voices have been excluded from the eminent persons groups set to lead this conversation. Colin Malachi of the ANC Youth League will be talking to us as well, saying that the ANC Youth League has welcomed the announcement of the national dialogue by the President, but raises concerns of the exclusion of youth voices from its leadership and grassroots organizations. We're going to be speaking to him about that this morning as well. And then a little bit later on, Mmusi Maimane is going to be joining us. Bold One South Africa with Mmusi Maimane had tabled in Parliament a new bill that seeks to make it illegal for employers or prospective employers to ask a prospective candidate for a salary advice of your pay slip, so to speak, of your current or previous employment, so that they can offer you a salary based on what you previously earned. They say that if a salary offer is made to you, it should be solely on the basis of your qualifications, the market value of the post, and not what you were previously paid for it. All of that and more coming up on the show. You can be a part of it all. I'd love to hear from you throughout the show. Your voice notes are welcome on 0614 104 107. That's 0614 104 107. And you can tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter and Oliver Dixon on Facebook. It's 10 minutes after 10.
Specsavers Audiology, South Africa's largest audiology group, brings you the all-new Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aids. Experience cutting-edge features at a price you can afford. For a limited time only, buy one Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right, buy one and get 50% off the second. Visit specsavers.co.za to find your nearest store and ask for Clarity Pro today. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game.
This is Oliver Dixon on SAFM.
11 minutes after 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us. This is the morning brief in brief. We speak to Melissa, giving us some of the biggest stories of the day being followed. Melissa, good morning. We start out in KwaZulu-Natal, where police are investigating a viral video allegedly showing police officers assaulting a high school pupil during protests in Jozini.
Morning, Oliver. So in KZN, the police are investigating the viral video that went viral. The video depicts police chasing and striking a pupil before forcibly dragging him towards a van. Police have condemned the incident and are assessing whether the video is authentic, promising action if excessive force is confirmed. The protest involved pupils from Sinete Zekile, Ezibukweni, and Gugule Sizwe high schools. 4 pupils aged 18 to 20 were arrested for public violence, assaulting officers and damaging property, but were later released to their parents. Police warned that unlawful protests will be met with firm action, and the Department of Education has yet to comment on the cause of this unrest.
Yeah, and then a big story coming out of the courts yesterday. The Supreme Court of Appeal had overturned the infamous Nulane case, which was, or at least had ordered a retrial of the Nulane case that was first heard in the Bloemfontein High Court.
Yes, so the Supreme Court of Appeal has overturned the Bloemfontein High Court's ruling that acquitted all accused in the over 24 million Nulane investments fraud case. The SCA found that the judge, Nompumelelo Gusha, made multiple legal errors leading to a miscarriage of justice. The accused, including Gupta, Associate Iqbal Sharma, and former Free State officials, can now be retired under a different judge. The case centers on fraudulent payments for feasibility study, which was cheaply subcontracted to Deloitte. The NPA welcomed the ruling, citing it as a boost to efforts to hold those involved in state capture accountable. We will have more on the NPA's reaction in the 8 o'clock hour.
Yeah, and it must be worth noting that it was an acting judge that originally had sat and heard that case in the Bloemfontein High Court, which brings into question case assignment in court circuits, particularly where acting judges are relied upon. And then, in response to severe flooding in the OR Tambo district in the Eastern Cape, the South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, is distributing cash vouchers and essential supplies to thousands of displaced families this morning.
Yes, so SASSA is one of the organizations that are taking, a step in helping the Eastern Cape. The disaster has caused, which was caused by extreme weather, including snowfall, strong winds, and, heavy rains, has resulted in 67 confirmed deaths, with thousands displaced and over 3,000 homes destroyed or damaged. SASSA, under the Social Relief of Distress Program, is providing daily meals, personal care packs, baby essential mattresses, blankets, school uniforms, and special vouchers for bereaved families. A disengagement plan is also, has been implemented to support victims' short-term financial needs. The national government has classified the situation as a state of disaster across 4 provinces, including the Eastern Cape, enabling emergency interventions. Search and rescue efforts are currently ongoing, with 4 children still missing in the province. President Cyril Ramaphosa is also expected to visit Mthatha today to offer support and to engage with some of the communities and victims.
Yeah, we're going to be speaking to the Minister of Cooperative Governance about that a little bit later on. Melissa, thank you so much for that update. Appreciate it, Melissa, coming to us there for the morning brief in brief. It's 15 minutes after 6.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
Let's take a look at your weather this morning. We start out with your warning, impact-based warnings, and there are none this morning, which is definitely a good sign. It means that the skies are opening up and that we're beginning to experience stable weather once again. We started with your indicators. Pretoria will be reaching a high of 19, fine weather expected there. Similarly in Johannesburg, a high of 18 is expected, fine weather. Vereeniging will be reaching a high of 18 with morning fog patches, otherwise fine weather expected there. Similarly, Mbombela will be fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, a high of 20 expected there. Bulugwane will be reaching a high of 19, partly cloudy, while Mahikeng will be reaching a high of 17, fine weather expected there. Freiburg will be fine with a high of 20, while Bloemfontein will be fine with a high of 18. -1 is expected as a low in Bloemfontein this morning. Kimberley will be reaching a high of 19, while Uppington will be reaching a high of 23. Both will be fine this morning. Cape Town will be experiencing fine weather with a high of 24. Light northerly to northeasterly expected in Cape Town. George will be reaching a high of 22. Fine weather there with a light northerly. Gqeberha will be reaching a high of 23. Fine weather expected there with a light northerly as well, while Eastern Cape will have a light and variable. Fine weather expected there with a high of 22. Durban will be fine with a high of 22 as well. You can expect a light northwesterly in the morning, otherwise a light to moderate northerly to northeasterly by the afternoon, while Richards Bay will be reaching a high of 23. Fine weather expected there. Light northwesterly in the morning, otherwise light to moderate northerly to northeasterly expected there. Pietermaritzburg will be fine with a high of 20. That's your weather.
We all have an enemy.
Not me.
Oh, please. Trust me, you do. Some are vocal about it. I mean, they don't shy away from it. Open hatred. Well, at least they're honest about it. Then you get our Satan. Oh, they will hate you in the shadows. Consult the Magoya of Baloi. Maybe an Nkabi for you here and there. Trash your name until it can't even be recycled. Tune into My Secret Enemy and get a front row seat to some of the most spine-chilling stories in the Hall of Betrayal. My Secret Enemy, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
From city streets to dirt trails, introducing the new Isuzu MU-X. Sleek enough for the city, tough enough for the mountains. With advanced all-terrain drive, 360-degree camera, and upgraded suspension to take on any journey. The new Isuzu MU-X, now including the new Onyx XT. It's an SUV with 4x4 capabilities, ready for anything. Experience the new Isuzu MU-X at your nearest dealership today.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
19 minutes after 6 o'clock. Well, there was an interesting treaty that was signed between the United States of America, Australia, and the United Kingdom about the Indo-Pacific water within which the US and the UK were to supply Australia with nuclear capabilities to ward off the Chinese aggression, as they had framed it, in the Indo-Pacific. More specifically, this was to be done gradually over time in the Trump administration, all while the agreement was signed during the Joe Biden administration. Well, the Trump administration has now launched a formal review of the Security Pact, a trilateral defense agreement, and it might put that agreement at jeopardy. Timothy Walker, who's a maritime project leader and senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies, joins us. Timothy, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show. How important was this agreement?
Morning, Oliver. Good morning to all your listeners as well. For the Australians in particular, this has been an absolutely fundamental treaty, an agreement which will pledge them for the next couple of decades to a process of building submarines, of accepting new nuclear technology, which Australia doesn't really have any kind of even civilian experience or facilities for. And it would cost for them, in US dollars, approximately $240 billion. They want to replace their existing submarine force over time with nuclear submarines purchased from first the United States and then from Britain later on. And what's amazing is that a deal like this, which is so fundamentally strategic, committing the country to defense, its budget, all sorts of decisions for decades to come, is kind of being destabilized by a few messages out of Washington at the moment, which have really set the whole country, as it were, on an alarm course.
Yeah. The Chinese military aggression in the Indo-Pacific, is it real or is it imagined?
Well, there's that well-known expression, which a lot of people might be familiar with, of gunboat diplomacy, the use of navies to signal your foreign policy or what you intend to do with an adversary has been there for decades. Nowadays, it's sometimes a little more subtle than just sending in a gunboat and trying to intimidate people. The Chinese have been clashing with navies and coast guards all throughout the South China Sea over the possession of islands in there. Those could be very lucrative or very important because of the resources they contain. But China's starting to cause consternation amongst, in particular, I think, Australians, because they deploy their navy around Australia in ways they've never done before. And they're trying to interpret what that means, because you can send your navy all over the world. It's a case of, like, if you've got the ability to do so, you can. The law of the sea, the kind of the high seas regime, which permits freedom of navigation, which is an absolutely fundamental part of how countries and companies and everyone with an interest in shipping goes about their business around the world. So what China does can be, for them, a sign of the normal kind of way of doing politics at sea, because they'll look at the United States or they'll look at Britain or other countries who send their aircraft carriers around China and say, well, this is what we're doing as well. But on the other hand, it's something new. It's something they've never done before, and they don't really, it's a kind of a grey, fuzzy zone where it's not really properly explained or discussed. So there's a lot of misinterpretation and ideas which circulate around.
Yeah. How expensive are submarine technologies and related technologies?
Well, there's several types of submarines, and the types we're talking about here, nuclear-powered submarines, are incredibly expensive. There's only 6 countries in the world who have nuclear submarines. That's the US, the UK, China, Russia, France, and India. Australia would be the 7th in that regard. It would be operating US and UK submarines effectively. To do that, to have the ability to have bases, to have skilled people to maintain or repair, but also to leave if needed, and new people to come in, have that whole process is fantastically complicated and expensive. Like I said, there's approximately $240 billion Australia is supposed to be spending on this in the future. They're looking at buying 3 submarines. Effectively, they've already put down a deposit of 800 million Australian dollars, which is about $500 million US dollars, effectively just to given to US shipyards as a sign of almost good faith in a way, which is why I think the news from out of the United States that they're they're not reconsidering yet. They've announced that they are looking at maybe adjusting some of the terms and the schedule of this agreement, has caused tremendous consternation. Just to say as well that this deal, AUKUS deal, the Australia, UK, US deal, emerged after in secret, basically, because the Australians for several years had committed to purchasing French submarines, and the French were very upset when they found that the 3 countries had been effectively negotiating behind their back for something which was 3 times more expensive than what the French were proposing. And a lot of lost opportunities there, they saw.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I really do appreciate your insights, Timothy. That's Timothy Walker, Maritime Project Leader and Senior Researcher at the Institute for Security Studies, coming to us, helping us make sense of that. I do want to bring you this news on the Worldview update this morning. Important update here. Israel has struck overnight, South African time at least, executed strikes on Iran. More than 200 strikes on Iran by this morning. Iran has said that they are preparing to retaliate on Israel and declare war against Israel, formally so. Donald Trump in the White House has come out and said that they stand ready to defend itself and its ally Israel should Iran retaliate. This seems like a very serious escalation of tensions between Iran as well as the USA and Iran and Israel, given that the strikes seem to be ongoing at the moment. A second wave of strikes. Strategic Iranian sites had been struck by Israel, places such as hospitals as well as its key nuclear sites. Iran had confirmed that one of its nuclear sites is in critical condition at the moment as a result of the strikes. Iranian state television had confirmed that top nuclear scientists Abbasi and Taranki were killed in Israel's strikes. and Israel media reported that it is expected Iran will launch hundreds of ballistic missiles towards Israel in a counterattack pretty soon. All while this is happening, the price of oil is up 12% this morning. So quite a sharp turn of events over there. That means that South African oil prices, and I mean it's a bit parenthetical and selfish to mention this, will be up pretty soon as well. We'll bring you more details of that a little bit later on. This is a developing story, 27 minutes after 6.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, it seems like our batsmen are just not coming to the party. Our bowlers, again, Ngidi also had a good day yesterday alongside Rabada. Rabada also was, again, lethal at the crease. But what the hell's going on with our batsmen?
I have no idea. But you know what? This World Test Championship final, razor tight at Lords. Australia now leading by 218 runs. But the Proteas, they've showed grit, especially with Kagiso Rabada dismantling the Aussies' top order early on. And Proteas batter David Bedingham describing it as being on a knife's edge as well.
I think it's just an amazing chance, and I think we're all very, very excited about the opportunity to win. Like I said, it could go either way, but I think us as a team are very, very excited, and there's a lot of belief in the dressing room.
In the meantime, the West Indies, their opening T20 international against Ireland washed out after heavy rain. The Windies are looking to bounce back after a 3-0 series loss to England in both the one-day internationals and T20 formats. Soccer, Kevin De Bruyne has completed his move to Napoli after the Belgian midfielder left Manchester City at the end of the Premier League season. He will link up with former Chelsea and Tottenham manager Antonio Conte, who's head coach of the Italian champions. Cycling, British rider Jack Stewart won a sprint finish to triumph in the fifth stage of the Criterium du Dauphiné as Belgian Remco Evenepoel held on to the race lead. Stewart claimed his first career victory in a World Tour race, edging the bunch finale ahead of Frenchman Axel Lawrence. Now, Evenepoel, who took the yellow jersey since Wednesday's time trial, crashed in the final kilometre, but was able to resume without difficulty and lost no time in the overall standings. And athletics, the final leg of the Grand Slam track, the athletics competition backed by Olympic great Michael Johnson, has been cancelled. It's understood there were concerns about the economics of the deal at the final venue of the 2025 calendar in Los Angeles, and organisers will now concentrate on next season's programme. In the meantime, the Olympic champion Julian Alfred coasted to victory in the women's 100 metres at the Oslo Diamond League. Alfred made history at the Olympics last summer when she won a first ever medal for her tiny island homeland of St. Lucia. Jamaican sprint legend Usain Bolt, he was making his first return to Oslo since his retirement in 2017. He presented Alfred with a bouquet of flowers as she made a winning start to her Diamond League title defence. And finally, golf. JJ Spawn leading the US Open at Oakmont after a flawless bogey-free 4 under 66. And South Africa's own Tristan Lawrence, not far behind, sitting just one shot.
A big one.
I know. And looking forward to that. And let's hear now from the leader for now, JJ Spawn.
I kind of came out here with, no prior history at Oakmont, not really knowing what to expect. Even U.S. Open-wise, this is only my second one. I just tried to kind of take what the course gave me. I hit a lot of good shots and try to capitalize on any birdie opportunities, which, aren't very many out here. But I scrambled really well, too, which is a huge component to playing well at a U.S. Open, let alone shoot a bogey-free round.
And that's where we leave it there. Well, Tristan Lawrence carrying the flag high for South Africa. We'll be back.
Look, he's not the only South African doing well on the leaderboard at the moment. I checked the leaderboard this morning, and look, we stand a good chance of bringing back a major to South Africa. Hey, man, shout out. The big names are struggling. They really, really, really are struggling, but Charles Besaiden-Hout is also doing well on the leaderboard. He's sitting 2 over this morning, which puts him in the top 33, not too far back from the leaders. Of course, 7 shots back on a Friday is not too bad. You still have some catching up to do over there. But yeah, big one for South Africa.
How deep can our boys go? We'll find out.
End the drought, a 12-year drought. Yeah, it's 31 minutes after 6. Let's take your latest headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musan. The headlines: Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velinkosini Hlabisa says 21 out of the 78 bodies linked to heavy rain that caused floods in the Eastern Cape have so far been identified. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa is set today to visit flood-ravaged areas in Mthatha. Hlabisa and the Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane will accompany the president. And Israel says it has launched dozens of military strikes on sites linked to Iran's nuclear program. Iranian state television says there have been loud explosions in the capital, Tehran. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning, we start south of Joburg with a crash coming in from Protea Glen, up from Lenasia, in from Eldorado Park. It's a crash on the N12 Potch Highway through what they call Dead Man's Bend and onto the N1 North up towards Devlin. So that crash just as you come off the N12 and ramp through to the N1. There's quite a big backlog. If you're off ramp at the Golden Highway, go through Eldo's Devlin and come back on at the N1 just before Deep Cliff Interchange. That'll work quite nicely as a workaround to avoid that crash delay. Heading up to Pietermaritzburg, very heavy traffic if you've left Durban. There was an earlier breakdown and a crash between Ashburton and Market Road. It is all being cleared up. The road has been reopened, but there's a really big backlog of traffic to move through. So maybe if you're on your way there, just delay it a little bit. M7 going into Pinetown, really heavy as well already, even at this hour from Hunstedman up over St John's Avenue Bridge. Of course, the Stapleton Road closure, putting a lot of extra pressure as motorists divert onto the M7. It really does get heavy. And if you're driving Cape Town this morning, a crash on the Stellenbosch Arterial at the R300. So another busy run through from Cales River and Blackheath towards the highway towards Delft, and Baden-Powell Drive already sitting towards Muizenberg as you line up into the Strandfontein Road junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
And we start with the business update this morning at the middle hour, at the middle of the hour with Ndaleng. Ndaleng, good morning. We start out with Micron, which makes an investment to expand its production capabilities in the U.S.
Morning, Oliver. Now, the chip manufacturer that focuses on chips for storage and not necessarily AI is looking to further invest and expand its manufacturing capabilities in the U.S. And so it plans to invest about $200 billion to boost America's domestic chip supply chain with the backing of the Trump administration. Now, the plan includes building a second memory fabrication facility, representing an additional $30 billion investment beyond Micron's previous commitments. This development is part of the U.S.'s broader efforts to reduce its reliance on foreign semiconductor production and strengthen its industrial capacity. Now, memory chips are crucial components in various critical applications, including national defense systems or the auto sector and other national security-related uses. The Trump administration cheered the move as it boosts the country's chip manufacturing capabilities. We also saw a similar move about a month ago from NVIDIA. They announced that they'll be investing about $500 billion in chip manufacturing in the U.S. This all in an effort, of course, to reduce the impact of tariffs on both companies.
Yeah. And then an interesting one here this morning. We take a look at Abu Dhabi's national oil company, reportedly eyeing some of BP's assets.
That's right. So this has, or rather Abu Dhabi National Oil Company reportedly considering a potential move to acquire some of BP's assets, and this has fueled takeover speculation for the energy major. According to Bloomberg, ADNOC is particularly interested in BP's LNG assets, although a full takeover of the company has also been considered. This development comes as BP faces pressure to restore investor confidence and fend off a prospective takeover. The company has launched a strategic reset, announcing plans to increase oil and gas spending while slashing its renewable energy investments. While a deal between ADNOC and BP is far from certain, analysts believe that BP's assets, both upstream and downstream, will likely attract interest from a number of energy and private equity players. The speculation surrounding a potential takeover comes as BP looks to divest $20 billion in assets over the coming years and increase its focus, of course, on oil and gas production. Now, BP's future is uncertain, with some analysts predicting that the company may struggle to navigate the next 6 months. Other companies like Shell, ExxonMobil, and Chevron have also been rumored as potential suitors for BP.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the market indicators. How did the markets close yesterday?
So U.S. markets recovering overnight, boosted by softer producer prices and a rally in tech counter Oracle. With that, the S&P led the gains, closing 0.38% to the good. Sentiment also positive on the JSE as local markets ended yesterday's session in positive territory. The All Share up 0.65%. Fueled by a 2.2% jump in the Resources 10 complex. Gains there come as the rally in platinum prices continues to run as many investors start looking at the precious metal as a safe haven asset. The rand, in the meantime, reversing most of its gains and edging closer to the 18 rand mark this morning as tensions in the Middle East increase and weigh on riskier assets. It's sitting at 17.97 to the dollar this morning. Sentiment also being hit over in Asia today following those attacks in Iran. So we're seeing a sea of red on that front and a rise in the oil price.
Yeah, and darling, we'll catch up again in the next hour. Advocate Sipho Mantula standing by with the latest in the Africa Update.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Advocate Sipho Mantula is here with us this morning for another installment of the Africa Update. We start out this morning, Advocate Mantula, in Nigeria, where celebrations and protests marks 26 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria.
Refreshing morning, Oliver and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Oliver, yesterday, as you know, since 1999, Nigeria has been having what they called a democratic space of engagement. But as you know, yesterday, as they were celebrating this 26 years, they look back at their challenges that they've been going through for the past 2 years. You will even recall the End Ban Governance movement, the issue around the tax, the issue about the cost of living, and the issues on the terrorists that have been terrorizing some of the parts, your Boko Haram, but also their celebration. It is around, as you know, they have celebrated it since 1993. The 12th June, it is that exact date that they've been looking at as the day of Democracy Day. But still, you have Bola Tinubu who's still struggling to deal with workers' condition, dealing with the youth challenges. But since last year, Oliver, there have been challenges, but they have celebrated it with protests yesterday.
And big one for Uganda. They've been removed from the EU's blacklist of financial crime.
That's quite true, Oliver. During the week, we saw the European Union announcing that Uganda has been delisted and removed as one of the high-risk countries after years of scrutiny. Uganda is along United Arab Emirates, Kingston, Jamaica, who have been removed. This goes through what they call technical assessment, Oliver, what Kampala has gone through. And the government of Uganda is also happy because they have put many laws, the Anti-Money Laundering Act, it is there in their legislation, and that's why I think EU was lenient to remove them from what we are calling financial crime blacklist.
Yeah. Let's head on over to the Africa energy crisis, Africa's renewable and energy transition, practical groundwork and doors of opportunities. Tell us more about that.
Oliver, remember that we know that many countries have been struggling with this energy source, whether Africa has energy, as sun, wind, hydro. But what is challenging now is the issue of flowing of financing. How do you finance many of these projects? 600 million across the continent. They still don't have reliable access to electricity. And the power, once you don't have power, Oliver, there's a threat to health when you look at clinics who are using vaccines. You look at digital classrooms, children going offline, not online. It slows also development when you have this energy crisis. But as you know, there have been many meetings in the continent how to use it. It's the momentum of using what we'll call renewable energy, the role of independent power producers, Oliver, how do you manage it? But as you know, many African countries, as I've said earlier, they are relying on the sources of nature. We know DRC, we know Ghana, we know Kenya, Malawi, Ethiopia. When you look at those countries, Oliver, that's where the issue of hydropower has been influential. The issue of solar energy is coming up, Oliver, because these are the challenges that are facing Africa. And when you talk of the Africa we want in 2063, the issues of energy and power has to be resolved by all means necessary.
Yeah. And you've given some thought to the framework of national dialogues and conventions as a political instrument.
Oliver, this is a very important task. I saw one article by Professor Eddie Maloka on Sunday, just before President announced the National Convention and Dialogues. But what is important is the aspect in the continent that many countries have tried this concept of national dialogue. You look at Somalia, you look at the inter-Congolese dialogue. But what is important is to understand the theories and the concepts. Why do we call the national dialogues, Oliver? What is the push and the pull? Is it to resolve political conflict? Is it to foster state and nation building? Is it to enhance social cohesion and facilitate peaceful socio-economic transformation? These are key concepts and theories that we need to understand. As you know, Oliver, that there's an imminent group, a bloated one also, Oliver, because in nature, the imminent group doesn't have to have many people because there will be concentration of what I will call egos or even personalities. And the issue of demographics, very important when you deal with national dialogues, and also for the state to avoid to become a referee and a player in an invitation that they are calling upon the civil society to engage. And I think you saw, Oliver, from the presidency yesterday, trying to clarify the issues of foundations that were allegedly said they've been left out of the national dialogue. But like I said, there's best practice in Africa, but we don't think that national dialogues or even this meeting of minds conventions are a panacea to the socio-economic challenges that are facing many African countries. Hence I said, let's give it that try, Oliver. The timing also, Oliver. You have a national dialogue when you have an election space. And you know, South Africa is going for 2026 local government elections. Why then call national convention after a year?
Yeah. And in our historical archives today, a big meeting had taken place among Soweto students in the lead up to the June 16 uprising.
Absolutely, Oliver. I thought that let's look at 72 hours before June 16, 1976, that 49 years ago, there was a meeting of the Naledi branch of the South African student movement where many representatives of all schools in Soweto, they met, decided, and that the protest will go on the 16th, which is on Monday, and there was an action committee that was called the Soweto Student Representative Council that was formed to organize that demonstration with two representatives from each school around Soweto. We'll talk about it, Oliver, on Monday on our Africa Update Extended to just get into the Day of an African Child in the AU calendar. And as well, what can we look at the 49 years of the June 16, the Soweto uprising. Asante San Oliver associated in the conversation, SAFM observing the Soweto uprising, man.
Advocate Sipho Mantula giving us the Africa update that a little bit later on in the hour. We're going to be talking to the ANC Youth League as well as Makua about their views regarding the national dialogue that is set to take place. They feel excluded. The president has responded once again to some of the voices saying they feel excluded. It's 15 minutes to the top of the hour.
Hey, Paul, what's the rush?
I'm off to SARS. I want to check if I'll be auto-assessed.
No need. If you're auto-assessed, SARS will send you a notice between 7 and 20 July.
So I just wait for the notice?
Exactly. If you get the notice, check it. And if you agree, you're done. Disagree, file using e-filing or the SARS Mobi app. If you don't get the notice, file from 21 July. Make tax matters your priority. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, after a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Tusopala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Taking some of your voice note reactions this morning, send that through to us on 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. Let's have a listen at this.
Good morning, bro Oliver. It's Fred the Trucker here in KZN, coming from Western Cape. Bro Oliver, do we really need a convoy of ministers and the president and the officials heading to Eastern Cape without, blankets and food? Just going there just to make statements. Do we really need that? Gift of the givers, they go there with blankets and food and warm, something to eat.
Well, this morning, Melissa had reported to us that SASSA, which is a state agency, will be handing out cash vouchers and other essentials to those affected in the Eastern Cape by the flood. So it's not as though the state is going there empty-handed altogether. Something is being done. Solutions are being provided.
Hi, Put Oliver. It's Toani here from David. Listen, man, I feel sorry for the people of the Eastern Cape. In KZN, we had floods. And we knew and we heard about the thievery that happened in those floods relief funds. And knowing those comrades from the Eastern Cape and how the legislature of the Eastern Cape is designed in such a way that it is run by the ANC alone. But I promise you, those guys are waiting for those funds. They are going to chow them left and right. Those people have no decency. They have no respect for human life. But at the end of the day, it is the people from the Eastern Cape that keeps on voting for one party for all these years. But beyond the lookout, those guys are going to steal that money.
Oliver and Police FM listeners, good morning. My name is Tulani Nzima in Croydon. Oliver, should we blame Americans for trying to protect their own people? No, I do not. I do not think we should, considering the fact that we had a whole president going to America and his cohorts to say South Africa is infested with criminal activities. It's beyond race and it's beyond everything else. It's just a criminal activity problem. Americans must protect their people. There, I completely agree with them. Then, secondly, Boeing needs to be closed with immediate effect. If it was not an American company, I'm sure that would have been called by Americans. Remember the Ethiopia 2018. Remember Indonesia. Remember, this thing is happening quite a number of times on aircrafts that are built by Boeing. What are we doing as the world? It just happened yesterday in India. This cannot be acceptable. Thank you.
I must say, the way you drew a link between how America must defend its people and how South Africa defines our problem as a crime problem is a fascinating one for me, because I don't see the link between those two things. I'm not sure how you made that connection. But anyway, thank you so much for that WhatsApp voice note. Appreciate it. Keep those coming in on 0614-104-107, 0614-104-107. Tweet me. It is at Oliver_speaking on Twitter and Oliver Dixon on Facebook. On the other side of this, I'm going to be reading you the latest statement coming out of the presidency around the national dialogue. All of that and more coming up. Let's take your latest in traffic.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A couple of early big impact scenes have thankfully cleared. That includes the crash coming in from Eldorado Park, Lenasia, Protea Glen along the N12 as you ran through the bend onto the M1 North, heading up to Deepcliff. That scene is cleared up. Traffic is moving. And the big crash that we had going into Pietermaritzburg on the N3 coming in from Ashburton, that scene has also been cleared, and that traffic starting to move through. If you're on your way to Durban, there is a breakdown at Cliffdale Kea Ridge. So that is quite heavy once you sort of get to Cliffdale, down to Kea Ridge, down to the M13 splits all backed up. M7 into Pinetown remains heavy. Traffic diverting away from the closure of Stapleton Road. So you've got extra volume on that M7. Traffic back beyond Hans Detman, complicating matters this morning. There's a breakdown just up by St John's Avenue Bridge in that M7 traffic. So extra delays there. Cape Town, another busy one on the Stellenbosch Arterial. This morning it's a crash scene coming out of Cales River towards the R300. So some extra delays there. Klipfontein Road, pretty heavily back leaving Athlone. Looks like a problem through Sidebrand Park up towards the M5 highway. And there's a little crash on the M3 inbound at Hospital Bend. Just slowing traffic as you arrive into that, coming through from UCT. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Blue Diamonds want to play their hearts out to secure important 3 points. But Masandawana ladies believe victory belongs to them. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the big clash of giants, JPW Ladies and Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies, the Sunday 15 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This Youth Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit, power and potential of young South Africans. Join us as we dive into conversations that matter, from innovation to education and skills for the changing world. Empowering youth for meaningful economic participation. Because at SAFM, we're not just talking, we're leading the conversations that move us. The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
So more detail has been released by the presidency regarding the national dialogue and the preparations there to. The statement reads as follows. The presidency has noted various media reports on the national dialogue that are based on incorrect and incomplete information. In this regard, the presidency wishes to clarify the following. The national dialogue is to be an inclusive process in which all South Africans will have an opportunity to participate as individuals or through organized formations. The first national convention to enable an all-inclusive process will be convened on 15 August 2025 to set the agenda for the national dialogue. This will be followed by discussions across the country in various sectors and on issues that citizens feel deserve national attention. These will then be grouped into agenda items for national engagement. A second national convention will be held in the beginning of 2026, where these discussions will be consolidated into a common national vision and implementation program. The Eminent Persons Group has been appointed to champion the national dialogue and to provide guidance to ensure that the process is inclusive and credible. It is comprised of respected individuals who have played and continue to play an important role in various areas of our national life. The Eminent Persons Group will not be responsible for the day-to-day running of activities. Preparations for the National Convention and other activities are currently being undertaken by the National Dialogue Preparatory Task Team, made up of representatives from various foundations, civil society organizations, and the presidency. The National Dialogue Preparatory Task Team has been working for close to a year on developing the form and approach of the national dialogue. The team will remain seized with the practical arrangements for the national dialogue until a representative steering committee has been established. Over the next few weeks, the National Dialogue Preparatory Team will undertake a series of information sessions and consultations with a range of stakeholders in preparation for the first National Convention on the 15th of August. This is the statement that was released by the presidency yesterday in response to the dialogue and dissatisfaction with the National Dialogue Eminent Persons Group. Christopher Rutledge, who is with Makua, joins us now. Christopher, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Makua is one of the organizations that has taken issue with the President's National Dialogue and its framing. Given what I just read to you now, does that change the perspective at all that Makua holds?
No, not at all. It just affirms exactly what we've been saying, unfortunately. You know, the President says that the dialogue is being called in order, I just want to get the words, to give all sectors of society, men and women, young and old, persons with disabilities, LGBTQ communities, and urban and rural people a voice to determine how we address the problems, right? But when we look at this eminent group that the President has announced, we see that the sectors that are represented is business and corporate. Obviously, they're first on the line. Faith-based. There's some faith-based people, there's some arts and culture, there's academia and policy, there's legacy, political elites like Mazibukos and those, there's sports and celebrity people, there's legal. But when you look at who is not represented, then you start to see the problem that we're talking about. Mining affected communities are not there. Informal settlements and shack dwellers are not there. Unemployed working poor are not there. Landless rural people are not there. Migrant communities are not there. Disabled persons are not there. Environmental justice and climate organizations are not there. Civic movements are not there. Rural youth are not there. So there's a long list of people that are not represented. And if you look at that eminent group, it really is a reflection of the president and his government. It is the same people speaking about the same things over and over again. The people who need to be heard are not there. They are not heard. Now, what the president is talking about, this process, is exactly what communities have experienced over the last 3 decades. They have these consultations, these imbizos, these things where they go and we're going to listen to the people and all these great stuff. But ultimately they don't, and nothing changes, and everything remains the same. So, for the country to undertake this expensive exercise and only to be doing exactly the same things that they've been doing before is absolutely crazy. I can't see how, we as society can let this just happen in front of our eyes and say, well, there's some clever people and some prominent people who are going to talk on our behalf. That is the problem.
Invariably, given just how varied and diverse our country is, invariably there were always going to be some people left out. And in fact, Sipho Mantula made a very interesting comment this morning. He said, it's quite a bloated group of eminent persons because typically you have 1 or 2 or 3 people considered to be eminent groups of people, the elders of the nation, so to speak, not necessarily representing a specific constituency, but rather representing the country at large, and they steer sort of the credibility of the organization, of the conversation.
It's crazy to think that business and old legacy political elites represent the people. This is exactly the problem. We released a report just a month ago, in which we showed the rate and extent, the vast problem that we have across our society, in which people are not being consulted, they are being excluded, and they're being driven deeper and deeper into poverty. The elite of our society, this exact same eminent group, they represent the people that are sucking all the wealth out of our country and leaving poor people behind. Now, that is the problem. I understand he wants to put an eminent group together, but then, don't tell us you want to listen to the people, you want to hear the people's voices, when quite clearly you are not. You only wants to hear the very same people that listens to him. One of our members was in a conference.
Can I just ask, maybe, Christopher, in your mind, what does the eminent person group represent for you, or what significance do you think they play in the national dialogue?
They represent another elite compact, a compact that is going to be made between those with money, wealth, and access, and they are going to decide what is best for the rest of society. Now, already we have a government that is not representative of society. The whole government is less than 49% of our population. The rest of the people that have not been heard in the elections need to be heard, and this is the kind of space that their voices need to come to the fore. But what we're seeing is a further suppression of the marginalized and the excluded.
And what's your view very specifically to the fact that the president says that the National Convention will enable an inclusive process where anyone, even organized groups like yourself, can participate in it to contribute towards what becomes the agenda for the national dialogue?
If that were true, then the presidency would have already been talking to groups like us, but instead he's talking to his cronies, his people, the people that support him, the people that will make a noise about him. He's not really interested in hearing what we have to say. He's going to come to us later and say, okay, this is what we've decided, what do you think? And that is not consultation. That is not a dialogue. That is telling us what he wants.
Yeah. We're going to have to leave it there. Christopher Rutledge, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really do appreciate it. Christopher is the Executive Director of Makua, a mining affected communities organization. I'm taking your reactions to that a little bit later on. 0614104107 if you want to send a WhatsApp voice note. 086-000-2032 if you want to give me a call this morning. It is 7 o'clock. Let's take your latest news bulletin.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, 21 bodies of flood victims in the Eastern Cape identified, and Israel launches strikes on dozens of targets in Iran. Good morning. Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Vilinkosini Hlabisa says 21 out of the 78 bodies linked to heavy rain that caused floods in the Eastern Cape have so far been identified. He has, however, raised concerns on the slow pace of the identification process. Hlabisa also says this could be attributed to factors including relatives visiting mortuaries to identify bodies without proof of identity. He addressed the media in Mthatha yesterday after visiting the area to assess the damage the floods have caused in the province.
Then you ask a question as to, there were so many people, why the number is low. There could be a number of factors because you need to correctly identify yourself before you identify the deceased. Now, some people will go there with no document to identify the deceased. There can be so many, and they will need to undergo a process of affidavits to ensure that not a wrong person makes an identification, even if it might be correct.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa set to visit flood-ravaged areas in Mthatha today. Hlabisa and the Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane will accompany the President. They will interact with the affected communities in Dikoloni and Slovo Park, as well as visit the Jumba Senior Secondary School, which has lost some learners. Ramaphosa says he's extremely concerned about the situation in the Eastern Cape.
The Eastern Cape is suffering from the floods. I will be going there to go and see exactly how our people are suffering, how we can console the families, and how we can come up with assistant measures from a disaster point of view to give real support to ordinary people, those who have suffered this loss, and we pay our condolences to those families that have lost their loved ones.
Members of the Military Command Council will accompany the Defence Minister Angie Motshekga to the Air Force Base Bloemspruit in Bloemfontein today to welcome SANDF members from the DRC. It's the first returning of South African troops deployed to the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo as part of the SADC mission. The group is expected to arrive in the country around midday. Statistician General Rasinga Maluleke has called on the Capitec CEO Gerrie Fourie to publicly present his method of determining the country's unemployment rate. This after Fourie questioned Stats SA's employment figures. He argued that the country's unemployment data excludes those employed in the informal sector. Fourie also says if the individuals were to be added, then the country's unemployment rate would be close to 10%. Maluleke says Stats SA's data is beyond reproach.
About 3 weeks ago, I released the quarterly labor force survey. We have reported on the informal sector, and I said the number of people in the informal sector are 3.3 million, and they account for about 19.9% of all people employed in South Africa. If he says unemployment is sitting at 10%, it means 10% of 25 million, we have 2.5 million people who are unemployed in South Africa. And then it means that we have 22.5 million people who are employed. The SARS from personal income tax doesn't even have such numbers for starters.
And finally, Israel says it has launched dozens of military strikes on sites linked to Iran's nuclear program. Iranian state television says there have been loud explosions in the capital, Tehran. Israel's defense ministry has confirmed the attack. It has also declared a state of emergency in the country, saying revenge strikes are expected. The BBC's Hugo Bachega has more.
Sirens sounded across Israel in the middle of the night as the defense minister Israel Katz said the country had carried out airstrikes on Iran. Footage posted online showed several plumes of smoke in the city. Restrictions on gatherings have been imposed across Israel amid expectations of a missile and drone strike. The attack follows days of speculation that Israel was planning to take action against Iran over its nuclear program, despite U.S. efforts to negotiate a deal.
Recapping the top story, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Vilinkosini Hlabisa says 21 out of the 78 bodies linked to heavy rain that caused floods in the Eastern Cape have so far been identified. He has, however, raised concerns on the slow pace of the identification process. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Have you heard the latest news? Vincent, a 40-year-old man, wanted to save money on his car insurance premium, so he got a quote from Outsurance. Vincent now saves a massive 990 Rand a month on his 2022 Ford Ranger 2.2 litre. Get a quote today. See how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. Licensed insurer and FSPs. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, cricket action, 14 wickets fell in a fiery day at Lords. The Proteas and the Aussies trading blows in this World Test Championship final. And we also bring you South Africa's Tristan Lawrence in hot pursuit, just one shot off the US Open lead. Details around 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning update. If you're driving in from Lenasia, Protea Glen or Eldorado Park to Joburg using the M12 Potch Highway, crash as you come through the bend onto the N1 North to link up towards Diepkloof. That collision just on that sort of bend once you've emerged through the bend onto the M1. So heavy traffic backlog through to the Golden Highway exit. The N3 North at Spruitview is jam-packed up to Heidelberg Road and a breakdown before Galulis on the N3 causing a pushback from Germiston on your way through Bedfordview, although I must say it is improving pretty rapidly. Traffic lights still down. Pretoria East, Solomon, Mshlungu and Garsfontein. Traffic starting to build up around that. Into Pinetown, the M7 is heavy. It's a breakdown in the diverting traffic volumes away from the Stapleton closure. So the M7's extra heavy anyway, and a breakdown as you get up onto St John's Avenue Bridge. So traffic heavy standing right back as far as Queensborough this morning. A breakdown at Key Ridge on your way to Durban, so that's quite heavy. And all the dramas between Ashburton and Pietermaritzburg, a breakdown and an earlier crash have all been cleared. The N3 on your way to Pietermaritzburg is starting to move a lot better. Cape Town, collision, Stellenbosch Arterial at the R300. That is still slow as you arrive at that scene from the Blackheath area. And there is also a little crash scene being attended to, top of the M3 at Hospital Bend. So once you get past UCT, that M3 inbound gets a bit busy. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 o'clock, this is the Morning Brief. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really do appreciate it. This morning, President Cyril Ramaphosa will be in the Eastern Cape in Umtata to be with the community of Umtata after having been ravaged by torrential rains and wind gusts and snow that had left them devastated. More than 10,000 homes have been damaged by this. More than just about 70 people had been declared dead there or about. 3,000 homes have been affected, rather, and over 10,000 people having been affected. 1,500 people are now currently living in temporary shelters. And a minibus taxi carrying 13 children was swept away. 4 children remain missing. Some have been found, some have died. Severe damage to roads, schools and water treatment facilities and power infrastructure. And the Butterworth water treatment plant is non-operational and the entire town has been left without water. Government and NGOs are all working together in an emergency and relief effort to help there. The Minister of Cooperative Governance, Velenkosini Hlabisa, will be joining us shortly. We're struggling to get a hold of him. We'll also be talking to the Minister of Basic Education, where more than 70 schools have been affected, and many of the children affected are school-going children. The 13 children were all belonging to one school. Psychosocial support had already been administered and made available to schools, communities and learners alike. All of that and more coming up in this hour. I'm also going to be talking to Musi Maimane, presenting in Parliament a new bill to seek to help make it illegal or unconstitutional for a prospective employer to ask for your payslip of your previous job when they intend to make you an offer on a new job. We're going to be talking about that in this hour and all the things related to that bill. You can be a part of all of these conversations. The number is 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. You can also send me your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter and Oliver Dixon on Facebook. It's 11 minutes after 7.
We're extending the sunshine on Mzansi's favorite adventure SUV with Ford Blue Sky offers. For just $849,999, a new Everest XLT could be yours. Glide through the burbs or power through nature's toughest with a 3.5-ton brake towing capacity. You'll even get 4x4 driver training through Ford Family Promise for free. Head to a Ford dealer and get your new Everest XLT for just $849,999. T&Cs apply.
Makoti Down Products is a proudly South African family business, started more than 30 years ago with 12 geese and a piece of material. Makoti manufactures duvets, pillows, sleeping bags, and high-quality Egyptian cotton linen. Our down products are suitable for people with dust mite allergies and come with a lifelong guarantee. And we offer a nationwide cleaning service for all your feather and down products. Visit us at makoti.co.za or call us on 041 992 2395. For quality down, Makoti Down.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
12 minutes after 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us. Really do appreciate it. Build One South Africa with Musa Maimane has presented in Parliament a new bill called the Fair Pay Bill, which seeks to amend the Employment Equity Act 55 of 1998 to, amongst other things, prohibit employers from using an applicant's post-remuneration as a basis for determining salary offers. Musa Maimane of Build One South Africa joins us now. Musa, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Tell us about the Fair Pay Bill. What's in it and what prompted it?
Good morning, Oliver, and good morning to fellow South Africans. Oliver, we live in an economy that has limited number of work opportunities, a sea of graduates who are unemployed and South Africans who are seeking work. These are perfect conditions upon which, in certain instances, exploitation can occur, but the real fight is about making sure that there's always just and equitable remuneration for work being done, so that it's equal pay and fair pay. So the bill, what it seeks to do is to say, at the point of inquiry, an employer who's advertising for a job needs to be able to advertise the band, and that is the band within which the job can be negotiated. So we're trying to prohibit an employer from being able to go, okay, here is Oliver. He used to work at a small firm as an accountant paying this much. Now he's coming to a big firm. All we're going to do is adjust for inflation his salary at the previous firm rather than sticking to the band that the salary was worth. So it's about achieving a sense upon which your historical workspace cannot be the determinant as to when you apply in a new space, and furthermore to ensure that when you are applying for a job, you as an applicant are empowered to negotiate within the right band rather than using your historical circumstance in a country where for so many people their historical circumstance are such that they were in certain instances exploited, in other instances working or not able to find work in the right areas.
Look, an applicant just has to say, I'm not allowed to give you my salary advice, which they in fact aren't because it is confidential information. They're not compelled to hand over their pay slip to a prospective new employer.
No, what has happened historically is that what happens is that employers naturally, in certain instances, you could say, yes, they're not compelled to do that. But then in an inquiry phase, you can find out, say, Oliver was earning this much, and then being able to determine that. The second thing is that the last thing you need to be able to do is walk into a workspace, find yourself doing the same job, and this often happens to women in more specific. You find that women arrive in workspaces, they do the same job as men, and then discover that in fact the men are being paid more for doing the same work, equal contribution, but they're being remunerated more. We're trying to correct for that equally so that you don't walk into a workspace, even if it's not about your historical space, but because of other discriminatory factors, you're not getting equal pay. I've spoken to enough accountants who will tell me that I become a partner in a firm, but my PA, who has been there for a long time for historical reasons, whatever the case might be, earns more than me. So we're trying to correct that injustice going forward.
Yeah. What else are the other contents of the Fair Pay Bill?
Well, it's not only that, it's also about in the inquiry phase, you being able to gain access to people who do similar work in the organization, just so that you know yourself that you are not being treated unfairly. But it also allows that in the period of negotiation, when all of that inquiry takes place, you're not only being able to speak to people who are doing a similar kind of job, but you are able to negotiate whatever you want, because when I say whatever you want, it's within reason, naturally, because you might find a woman who is pregnant or a woman who wants to have children or work different hours. We want to empower them to ensure that they're able to negotiate the best way they can at that interface. And so the bill amends those sections of the law and ensures that both the employer and the employee are empowered to negotiate properly.
Invariably, this will get a lot of pushback by industry because they want to protect the ability to have unfettered negotiating freedom when it comes to how they negotiate with a new employer. And of course, this might see extensive litigation. This might see extensive PR backlash. What's your defense in response to that?
Well, then the employers must be able to tell South Africans that they believe in unfair pay, or they believe in practices where ultimately an employer or someone who's seeking employment must then be open for exploitation. We live in a country where when the Constitution says we recognize historical injustices and seek to correct those injustices, that is what effectively this law is trying to do. And so anyone who acts against that principle must be able to tell us what is just. We are simply empowering both the employer and those who are seeking employment in a country that has got gross levels of not only inequality as far as income is concerned, but asset inequality, but opportunity inequality. And so I'm asking for an employer who wants to give us backlash. They could come up and argue the fact that this may give them more compliance reasons, etc. We're trying to eradicate that so that when you advertise, someone knows I'm applying within this band, this is the experience that is required, so that when people then finally come post-inquiry, you can be able to engage them fairly and equitably.
Yeah, Mmusi Maimane, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Mmusi Maimane is the leader of Build One South Africa, tabling in Parliament the Fair Pay Bill. I'm taking your reactions to that. What are your thoughts on that? 0614-104-107. Send me your WhatsApp voice note over there. 18 minutes after 7 o'clock, let's speak to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosi Nihlabisa.
This is Oliver Dixon on SAFM.
The Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has been on the ground in the Eastern Cape for the last couple of days following devastating weather events that has left many destitute. Many families are now without their homes, as 3,000 homes have been affected by the floods. 10,000 people had been affected, 3,000 homes, and just about 70, give or take, people have been declared dead, and the number keeps rising on the hour. Emotional trauma has swept across the community of Mthatha in the Eastern Cape, and sadly speaking, the Butterworth water treatment plant is non-operational, leaving the entire community without water. The President will be visiting there this morning. Minister, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show. It's under very sad circumstances that you and I speak at this moment. What do we know about the latest figures presented to you by the disaster management team there about the fatalities and injuries?
Good morning, my brother, as well as the listeners of the radio station. As you have rightly described it, it is a devastating situation. As we went to sleep yesterday evening, the numbers had increased to 78 confirmed deceased persons. And many people displaced, living in uncomfortable conditions in the community halls. It's a very sad situation.
At the moment, we know that SASSA will be handing out cash vouchers to those who had been affected and other essential supplies. What has been made available to the community through disaster relief?
There has been a great intervention. I visited out of Yes, there are 5. I visited all of them. The last one, I saw it towards the end of the day. The intervention is at a satisfactory level. Indeed, when you intervene in a disaster, you can't say it is 100% good, but the atmosphere in terms of meals, in terms of blankets, in terms of the sleeping material, it's very good. In all the centers, as I visited yesterday, the humanitarian organizations really came on board, business people, even the artists. In one area, I met the artists who were providing full meals 3 times a day. And the government departments intervened, as you rightly say, talking about the water issue. The Department of Water and Sanitation and COGTA, under the wing MISA, we have deployed our technical team, the engineers, to come and assist. Indeed, if the infrastructure has been affected, it cannot be fixed overnight, and it will need some couple of days to ensure that the water reticulation is brought back to full operation.
Yeah. Minister, has a official provincial state of disaster been declared, and what has been made available through that declaration?
Yesterday, we made a classification of a national disaster, and a difference between classification and declaration. Classification is a first step. We made it a national disaster under classification, which involves 4 provinces: Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, and Western Cape. The classification nearly works the same as declaration. The problem with the declaration, it takes long to activate departments because you need to make regulations. You must gazette them. Someone might object to them.
Yeah.
And by that time, you are not activating any system. So now the classification allows all 3 spheres of government to intervene immediately, as from yesterday, and all departments of government at all levels are now in a state of intervening. It is sufficient to ensure that sufficient intervention is done.
Yeah. Importantly, the president will be visiting this morning. What is the president expected to do? Where exactly will the president be doing inspections? As he said, he'd like to go and see for himself the state of devastation.
Yes, he will visit the areas in order to witness the infrastructure that has been affected, especially where communities are residing. And of course, the bridge, which was a trigger of the tragedy, where 10 school children were swept away. And also, he will be visiting the communities where they are in order to show solidarity and convey his sympathy and condolences.
Yeah. Minister, of the 78 deceased people declared thus far, how many of them are children?
The confirmed, there were, let me just, sorry to be, I'm correct, my brother. I don't want to, there are sensitive matters in the media. Firstly, out of 10 school children, 6 were confirmed as deceased, and by yesterday we were doing the search and rescue for the remaining 4, and when these people were discovered almost towards sunset yesterday, they were confirmed as deceased and marking the figure to 78. We have to confirm this morning that among those people are the 4 children who were still missing, part of them, because there should be a process, in fact, of communicating even to parents involved as the latest figures increased immediately after sunset.
Yeah. Minister, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really do appreciate it. That's the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa. The number of confirmed deceased people in the Eastern Cape now sits at 78. A little bit later on, we're going to be speaking to the Minister of Basic Education to hear about the Basic Education Department's intervention in helping schools and displaced children. This happens literally right in the middle of exam season. quite devastating. I'm taking your reactions to this on 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107, and you can also send me a WhatsApp voice notes on give us a call on 086 000 2032. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dixon on Facebook. Zai's here with your latest in sports.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
All right, we'll start with Lungi Ngidi's comeback. I mean, even the critics are quietly deleting their tweets because it was a day of drama at Lord's. 14 wickets fell. Day 2 of the World Test Championship final between South Africa and Australia. After being bowled out for 138 just after lunch on day 2, the Proteas delivered another impressive bowling performance, restricting the Australians to 144 for 8, leaving them with a lead of 218. Kagiso Rabada struck early with textbook reverse swing, removing Usman Khawaja for the second time in 2 days, while Lungi Ngidi silencing the critics with a blistering 3-wicket spell that included the prize scalp of Steve Smith. Themba Bavuma adding flair with the only 6 of the match. Let's hear from Proteas batter David Bedingham praising Lungi Ngidi.
You mentioned Lungi. I think he struggled in the first innings, and to come back the way he did was quite special. Lungi's a chill guy, so I don't think it would have affected him that much. But yeah, I think he was struggling with that end, and I think as soon as he changed ends, he looked a lot more comfortable. And for him to bowl 9 overs on the bounce takes a massive amount of effort. I think we're very lucky to have him.
On to soccer, Chippa United coach, the new coach, Sinathemba Badela, has credited former Mamelodi Sundowns coach Rulani Mokoena for the impact he's had on his career. Badela recently worked as Mokwena's assistant at Moroccan club Wydad Casablanca and says he's grateful to have been given that opportunity.
I'll forever be grateful for the opportunity to work with Coach Rulani, who is someone that is very special to me. He's helped me a lot in my career, and I don't think I would even be here talking to you had it not been for him. He has done a lot for my career, and I'll forever be grateful for the opportunity that he has given me to work with him.
On to cycling, the British rider Jake Stewart won a sprint finish to triumph in the 5th stage of the Criterium du Dauphiné as Belgian Remco Evenepoel held on to the race lead. Stewart claimed his first career victory in a World Tour race, edging the bunch finale ahead of Frenchman Axel Lawrence. Evenepoel, who took the yellow jersey since Wednesday's time trial, crashed in the final kilometre but was able to resume without difficulty and lost no time in the overall standings. Rugby, Leinster have made 2 changes to the starting 15 for tomorrow's URC final in Dublin, with Bok Lock Archie Snyman set to make an impact off the bench. Ireland international Gary Ringrose returns to the midfield and partner All Black Geordie Barrett, with Jamie Osborne dropping out of the starting lineup and Josh Van Vlier replacing Scott Penny at open side flank. Hooker Ronan Kelleher and props Jack Boyle and Rabah Slimani provide the front row reinforcements, with Snyman and Max Deegan also offering muscle off the bench. Departing fly half Ross Byrne is set to make his 186th and final appearance for Leinster as a replacement. Finally, golf, JJ Spawn leading the US Open at Oakmont with a flawless bogey-free 66. But South Africa's Tristan Lawrence firmly in the mix, just 1 shot back with a clinical round of 67. And that's it. We'll swing back with more sport at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, humanitarian aid organisation Gift of the Givers and the Al Imdad Foundation say they've intensified their emergency and rescue efforts in the flood-hit areas in Umtata and the Eastern Cape. Floods have displaced scores of the residents and caused widespread destruction in the area. Anti-gang unit detectives in Cape Town are searching for men who shot and killed alleged underworld kingpin Andre Nodia. 55-year-old Nodia was gunned down yesterday afternoon. And the US says it was not involved in Israel's attack of Iran. The Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Israel has told him that it needed to act in self-defense. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just a couple of updates from the Eastern Cape concerning some roads that are currently blocked with protesting. If you're driving between Mthatha and Port St. John, just near the landmark St. Barnabas Hospital, there's some protesting going on there. That section of the R61 is currently blocked. And we're also getting some more reports of protesting on the GQ side, Addo Road at Wells Estate. There's some burning tyres across that section of the Addo Road this morning. Into Joburg, the crash on the N12 Potch Highway linked to the N1 to turn up to Diepkloof. That's all being cleared away and the traffic is flowing. R21 is heavy passing Tembisa into the roadworks towards the Olifantsfontein Road exit, and the traffic lights still faulty. Pretoria East, Solomon Mishlangu, Gaasfontein, that's quite slow going through there. Durban, there looks like an issue on the M7. It's been really heavily back from Queensbury to Pinetown. Issue now between Hans Detman and the N3, and then you've got, once you get past that from the N3 up into Pinetown, it's really heavy over St John's Avenue Bridge. Stationary vehicle at Key Ridge coming towards Durban, big queues just after Hammersdale as you line up through Cliffdale towards that obstruction. Cape Town this morning, Coburg Road is heavy up towards the Bloberg Road junction on your way to Killarney Gardens, and no traffic lights if you're heading away for the weekend. Expect some delays here. The N2 at Reunion Drive in Somerset West, and that's quite heavily backed up already. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
It is 32 minutes after 7 o'clock, and Darling is back with the business update. Darling, in this one, we look at Transnet to receive additional financial support from government. This is as part of the Operation Vulindlela reforms, I would assume.
That's right, Oliver. So they are in line to get more aid, and this will be in addition to the 51 billion rand facility that was announced last month. The Department of Transport confirmed the move yesterday in a statement, saying the new facility will ensure Transnet's financial stability and ability to execute its capital investment program as it is in that turnaround process. Now, the funding is aimed to mitigate the company's short-term liquidity risk and support its financial restructuring. Transnet's debt burden has been concerning, exceeding 138 billion rands, and a significant portion of its cash flow is consumed by debt servicing. The company has a 9.9 billion rand local bond that's due for repayment in August, and recently Moody's warned of a potential ratings downgrade due to Transnet's unsustainable capital structure and deteriorating liquidity.
Yeah, let's take a look at this morning in the residential rental property market sees its best quarter since 2017. I guess it's a good time to be a property owner that's renting out their property.
It is. Now, we saw average national rental growth reaching 5.6% in the first 4 months of 2025. And according to the PayProp Rental Index, Limpopo led the charge with a 10.9% increase in rent. Wow, right, Limpopo, who would have thought?
Yeah.
While the Western Cape recorded the highest average rent at 11,285 with a 9.6% growth rate.
Absolutely ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah, average. So imagine how much, really good apartments are.
On the high end, yeah.
So PayProp says the rise in rents was driven by increased tenant demand and broad-based provincial growth, allowing landlords to recover losses sustained in recent years. The proportion of tenants in arrears also decreased to 17%, but rising electricity tariffs may put pressure on tenants in the coming months, and affordability concerns are also driving tenant moves. Zooming in further on those provincial performances, the Free State recorded a 7.6% growth rate, and Gauteng delivered a weaker performance with 2.9% growth on that front. Mpumalanga had the lowest growth rate at 1.1%, while KZN maintained a growth rate of 4.5%.
Yeah. If you're in Cape Town listening to this conversation and you pay rent, please call me. Let me know how much you pay in rent. I think 11,000 plus as an average for the province as a rental rate is ridiculously expensive. It just shows you that South Africans generally can't afford to live in Cape Town, which is absolutely sad. Let's take a look at those market indicators.
So geopolitical moves driving sentiment today following Israel's strike on Iran. Oil prices rising 8.6% this morning at $73 per barrel. Analysts are watching developments there closely as escalating tensions could disrupt supplies coming from the energy-rich region, and that's sending prices higher. Now, the possibility of a disruption in the oil market has sent equity markets lower. Stocks trending lower in Asia. The Japanese Nikkei taking the biggest hit, down 1.2% in that region. U.S. futures also in the red as focus shifts from economic data to those tensions in the Middle East. Back at home, stocks closed in the green yesterday with the Resources 10 complex leading the gains. We might see that continuing today with counters like Sasol likely to benefit from increased Brent spot prices and the fleet to safety likely to boost gold and platinum prices.
Yeah, Ndalang, thank you so much for that. We'll catch up in the next hour. Israel has reported that they have been under attack by Iran in retaliation strike. Iran has issued more than 100 drone strikes this morning alone against Israel in retaliations to Israel's more than 300 drone strikes over the last couple of hours. Israel saying it will defend itself, Iran saying that it is retaliating also in defense of itself. More importantly, the United States of America said that Israel had done this unilaterally, and reports are coming out that on Monday, Donald Trump had advised Benjamin Netanyahu against striking Israel. Marco Rubio, State Secretary of the U.S., had said that they're not involved in this at all, but they will defend themselves if they are attacked. We'll bring you more on that in the next hour. Taking your call 086 000 2032.
A bowl of cereal, a glass of orange juice, some flavored yogurt for breakfast. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front-of-package warning labels now. Sign the petition on heala.org. HEALA.org. The Blue Diamonds want to play their hearts out to secure important 3 points. But Masandawana ladies believe victory belongs to them. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the big clash of giants, JVW ladies and Mamelodi Sundowns ladies, the Sunday 15 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
X at SAFM Radio and at Oliver_speaking.
Taking some of your WhatsApp voice note reactions, 0614-104-107, 0614-104-107. Let's have a listen at this.
Good morning, Oliver. Whiskey here. Oliver, I hear a lot of people complaining that the president is going there and he's not going to be having blankets in his hand. Unfortunately, such people do not understand how government operates. Oliver, SASA, as indicated in the news, is busy assisting in the area. SASA is a departmental entity. So government is there assisting. Provincial government is there assisting. In any case, condolences to the families and all the best to Eastern Cape people.
Good morning, Olive. Good morning to the SAFM listeners. Olive, I will also touch on the big topic today, which is the floods that actually happened in the Eastern Cape. I hope that they will get all the assistance that is assigned to them. I hope that we don't get people who see opportunities to enrich themselves through these funds and take all the money, because this money is meant for those who are going through this difficult time, and it must be directed as such. Segwanele, Pretoria.
Thank you so much for that. 086 000 2032. Give me a call. That's the number to dial. Mukwena out in Rustenburg. Good morning. Mukwena?
Oliver, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Go for it.
Good. On the issue of the national dialogue, I don't know what is it that the president wants to talk about with the masses of South Africa. When they were campaigning for the votes, they told us that they will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think they know what has to be done. There's no need for a national dialogue. It's only just a futile exercise, a waste of money for that matter. People, they are languishing in poverty. People, employment is not there. The government should come up with ways and means and strategic plans to make sure that they create employment. People, they also bring down the rate of crimes and all that. There's no need for this thing. Honestly speaking, it's just a waste of time.
I have an interesting question I want to ask you, and I hear a lot of people share that sentiment. I can understand why South Africans have the sentiment that the national dialogue is just a talk shop and a waste of time. But every once in a while in South Africa, there's something that rears its ugly head called racism. And oftentimes we're told, as a country, we never really spoke about our differences and we never really had the difficult conversations with each other. We need to have the difficult conversations with each other. How else do we have the difficult conversations if we don't have platforms through which we can convene nationally to have the difficult, complex, and ugly, uncomfortable conversations with each other? I'm just making one example here.
Oliver, the issue of racism, it will never go away. It will remain with us for as long as we are alive. And we know that if you were to check, there are those Europeans or white, as they are called, those that they can be able to live with black people, Africans for that matter. And there are those that they don't want to talk about it. There are those that they don't want to associate with them. And it will remain like that.
Okay.
Regardless of how hard we talk about it, it will remain like that.
Sure. So any conversation attempted at taking this country forward must be rooted in the material conditions of people. Seems like we lost him there. Dario in Bloemfontein. Dario, good morning.
Morning, Oliver. So the question here for me is this. Last year we went for election to elect leaders, people that were advertising themselves as people that can bring this country forward. So now those leaders eventually form a government of so-called national unity, and they don't know how to lead. They are looking for a national dialogue. So the question is this: why they presented themselves as somebody that can solve the problem of the country? And I don't understand. So this country is now turning into a dystopian example. I mean, from a phantomatic genocide, which is not in Palestine, to, being, people that are funding those parties that are sitting in the Stellenbosch, known as the Stellenbosch Mafia, that tell us that unemployment is not there. They tell us unemployment is 10%. Some of the best economies in the world, they perform at 10%. So this is really, a crazy, situation that we're in. We have a president that is a billionaire with dollars stashed into his, couch, and no one does anything, and he doesn't have an idea of what to do, and then he calls on the country to give ideas. I mean, this is crazy. But anyway, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dario, calling us there from Bloemfontein. Dumisani out in Soweto, good morning.
Good morning, Oliver. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Dumisani. Go for it.
I'm good. I've called several times, maybe thinking we'll get some help from FM. Calling from border management to call the management, to answer to the people on the ground. Today is the 13th. Staff are supposed to be paid. They haven't been paid.
Which staff is this? Border Management Authority staff?
Yes. Ever since its inception, there have been discrepancies since. People are being overtaxed. People don't get their salaries monthly. Their salaries fluctuate monthly. I've called when Tula says they have called on Kefix show. Like today, people are not paid. I mean, that's a very crucial organ of the state.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Our borders, but people are not happy there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
If I can show you the group, they're like even the unions are not of help at this time. If I can show you the messages on the group, like they're flooding. People are unhappy there. Can you guys pull in this commissioner to come and answer? I can avail myself to face him when he's there on the studio.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your call and bringing that to our attention. I'm going to ask the team to look into that, Dumisani, so that we can have a better sense of what's going on at the Border Management Authority.
I've called maybe 10 times so far this year. because this is a burning issue.
You're absolutely right, Dumisani. Thanks a lot for that. I am unfortunately thin on time. Dumisani calling us there from Soweto. It's 15 minutes to the top of the hour. On the other side of this, we speak to the spokesperson of the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, after a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Thuso Phala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief.
The Eastern Cape has been devastated. We spoke earlier on to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa, and we now speak to the Eastern Cape spokesperson to the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Kuselwa Ranki. Kuselwa, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Give us a sense this morning of what the coordination is at provincial government level to bring relief to the people of Umtata, where in various parts of the Eastern Cape where disaster has struck.
Good morning, Oliver. Good morning to SAFM listeners. This morning, Oliver, we go back to the various sites that have been heavily impacted by the disaster. As we have been saying in the past 2 days, work continues in terms of search and rescue of people that may still be along those river banks. On a daily basis, Oliver, there are more bodies that are being recovered, and the rescue teams have been bolstered yesterday. We have additional members on the ground that are working hard together to make sure that we are able to account for everyone who is not accounted for at this stage. Unfortunately, Oliver, we are working in a situation where we do not have a specific number of people that we are looking for. So we continue the search until we have combed all the relevant areas or the areas that would have been identified by the technical team.
Yeah, what has the Premier been focused on over the last 2 days? I know the President's coming in today, so the Premier is going to be with the President, but yesterday it was only the Minister who was at the disaster sites. Where's the Premier been?
Yes, Oliver, the Minister was at the disaster site working with the MEC for for cooperative governance in the province, as well as other leaders, local authorities, your mayors and others. Now, also, as we have said earlier in the week, the Premier had, on the onset of this disaster, deployed MECs. The MEC for Education is in and around Mthatha and focusing on some of the areas, as well as the MEC for Social Development, the MEC for Health, the MEC for Transport. So there are leaders, government leaders, that are on the ground and working together with all other leaders of the various spheres of government. And yes, the Premier will once again be on the ground. He is back in Mthatha as of late yesterday, and he will continue once again today with the work that we still have to do in this area. And that includes supporting the teams that are continuing with the work of assessing the various areas that have been damaged infrastructure, your social and economic infrastructure that has been damaged. And that he will continue on that work before he meets with the President today.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Kuselwa Ranki, the spokesperson to the Premier of the province of the Eastern Cape. It's 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's take your latest in traffic.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're just joining us, a reminder down in the Eastern Cape, there is some protest action this morning on the road that links Mthatha through to Port St. John's. It's the R61 just by St. Barnabas Hospital. If you know where that is, that's where protesters are currently blocking off that R61. There's also been some protests reported on the Addo Road down at Gqeberha side. It's just, you might know, the Wells Estate area of the Addo Road. There's some burning tyres across that section of roadway as well. Pretoria, still no traffic lights on the east junction of Solomon Mshlangu and Garsfontein Road, so a bit of bottlenecking going on around there. Another crash on the N14 heading up to Pretoria just before Brockfontein interchange. That's a high collision zone this time of morning, so if you've gone past the R55 Pretoria West exit, there will be some traffic that you'll run into. And a crash on the R55. This is around the Attridgeville area, just by Maundy Road, going up into Pretoria West. That is quite slow this morning as well. Joburg, earlier crash coming on the N12 Potch Highway onto the N1 down by Eldos. That's all being cleared up. Joburg not having a bad run. There is that collision, though, on William Mandela at Uranium. That's Lone Hill Boulevard as well, so a lot of congestion around that one. Big delays from Pietermaritzburg heading to Durban. A stationary trucked out at Key Ridge just before the M13 split. Traffic's backed all the way back through Cliffdale and almost back to Hammersdale. It's really heavily back Durban bound. The M7, it's a collision before the N3. That's why the traffic's extra spicy and heavy from Queensborough this morning. And Cape Town, no traffic lights on the N2 at Reunion Drive, so delays both ways through Somerset West. Otherwise, again, Cape Town not having a bad Friday morning. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
8 minutes to the top of the hour. The devastation in the Eastern Cape is happening right in the middle of exam season. Children, schooling has been interrupted as a result of that, and some schools have been damaged to the point of not being able to be functional at the moment. The Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwagube, joins us this morning to give us an update on the latest interventions the department is offering up in the Eastern Cape. Minister, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Can you give us a sense of what the devastation is to the schooling system in the Eastern Cape at the moment?
Good morning, Oliver, and good morning to your listeners. You're absolutely right. I think over and above the fact that this community is still reeling from the devastation of the past couple of days, education has been adversely affected. As you know, we are in the middle of June exams, and the school calendar is incredibly tight. And so if you start to have delays in any of the exam seasons, it's got an impact, for instance, particularly for matrics in September, and then, of course, for the final exams. And of course, when one looks at also the infrastructure damage, about over 70 schools in the province have been affected by them in varying degrees, of course. And so a number of things have had to happen. One, on the one side, we've had to make sure that we are rolling out psychosocial support at the Jumba secondary school, where these learners come from, who were involved in the scholar transport incident. I was there yesterday with the learners and the parents and the teachers. I'm quite glad that is ongoing. Then on the other elements, there are 2 other learners in separate incidents who have also been killed in flood-related incidents around the province. We are also rolling out psychosocial support there. But with regards to essentially trying to get the academic program on track again, we are making sure.
Minister? Sorry, Minister, your line's just cutting there for a second. Let's see if we can get the Minister back on the line to give us, as the Minister's giving us an update there. I'd like to hear your reactions to this. Give us a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. You can send me a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter and Oliver Dixon on Facebook. Minister, we lost you there for a second. You had mentioned psychosocial support provided for, so you had mentioned that, and also mentioned plans to get the academic calendar back on track.
Absolutely. So, as I said, schools that have been severely damaged, we've had to redirect learners to neighboring schools so that we can make sure that they can get the academic program on track. Those pupils who have missed the key exams that were happening this week, that has been CBE, will make sure that's done towards the end of the month. But also, Oliver, just to add, it's incredibly important that the declaration that has been made, or at least the classification that has been made in terms of the national disaster, is very helpful for the education sector, because we're able to mobilize resources so that we can quickly repair infrastructure so that we can get learning and teaching back on track again.
Yeah. Of the schools that have been damaged that now have to be fixed almost altogether, specifically where you've directed learners away from towards other schools that are still functional, how many schools are we talking about? How severe is the damage? And are the funds available to get those schools repaired immediately?
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying that the classification of the national disaster is helpful because, as you know, infrastructure remains an Achilles heel for the sector and particularly for the province. And so it's good that there has been this classification because it means that the province will be able to have access to resources that can be channeled pretty quickly to be able to go and repair those schools. We are looking at about over 70 schools. In this area alone, in the Mthatha area alone, about 7 schools are really badly affected. And so we've had to do a lot of redirecting. But also, it also means that the province has to make sure that scholar transport is provided to learners who are no longer going to schools that were perhaps near to their homes. And so it's really, it's a massive logistical undertaking. And this is why, as the National Department is descended upon the province to really try and assist both with the academic program, but also with trying to help with the psychosocial elements that these learners, their parents, their teachers need. And so those are the two irons in the fire, really. One on the academic program, getting the infrastructure right again, but at the same time making sure that we're supporting these learners and the educators.
Yeah. In Butterworth, for instance, the water treatment plant is down. There's no water available in the entire community. And, of course, schools quite literally can't function without water. Kids can't flush their toilets, and there's a myriad of problems that stem from that. Do you know what support is being done at a public works and infrastructure level to be able to get schools and communities functioning again, specifically where things like water and electricity has been interrupted?
Absolutely. This entire area, Oliver, has been really badly affected by the lack of water, the lack of...
Oh, Minister, seems like we've lost you again. Do you mind just holding stable for us there, Minister, and just trying again?
Hi, Oliver.
There we go. Could you just repeat your last sentence there as the line cut on us?
Saying that the infrastructure damage is quite severe here in these towns in terms of water provision, power lines down. And so I think that's why this multi-governmental approach is quite important because we have raised these things, for instance, with the Minister of Water and Sanitation, so that tankers are brought into communities so that we can give relief not only just to schools, but also to communities in general. We also have the Minister of Social Development, who ought to be giving us support, particularly when it comes to blankets and the like, because remember, there are also children whose homes have been washed away. So there are learners that we also have to look after, whose books, whose uniforms have been washed away with their homes. So this is why I think it's quite important that this classification has been made, because I think it forces all government departments to work together, because a crisis of this magnitude does require an entire government approach, and it requires really all departments to put shoulder to the wheel.
Yeah. Minister, thank you so much for your time and coming on. Really do appreciate it. As the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwachube, I'm taking your reactions to that. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. And of course, you can tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter and Oliver Dixon on Facebook. Many NGOs are supporting communities in the Eastern Cape. Many of them are reaching out and asking people for donations and support in whatever form whatsoever. If you can, please do contribute to those donation drives. I think those who are affected right now need us the most. The Eastern Cape needs the rest of the country, and it is our national effort that will bring the dignity of the people affected back on their feet. It is 8 o'clock. Let's take your latest news bulletin.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, aid organizations intensify emergency and rescue efforts in Mthatha And US claims no involvement in Israel's military strikes in Iran. Good morning. Humanitarian aid organization Gift of the Givers and the Al Imdad Foundation say they've intensified their emergency and rescue efforts in flood-hit areas in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. Floods have displaced scores of residents and caused widespread destruction in the area. President Cyril Ramaphosa, Cooperative and Traditional Affairs Minister Velinkosini Hlabisa and Premier Oscar Mabuyane are expected to visit the area today. Gift of the Givers Project Manager Ali Sablé.
Emotional and tragedy scenes playing out as loved ones and family members standing all day at the riverbanks or at the disaster site, watching the search and rescue team members trying to recover and bring closure for them to see if their loved ones have been found. This is a huge humanitarian operation, close to 10,000 people affected. There's always a need for extra items, especially in terms of mattresses and blankets and non-perishable food items. And the only challenging issue at the moment is logistically, where some of the roads and bridges have washed away.
Meanwhile, Minister Hlabisa says 21 out of the 78 bodies have so far been identified. He has, however, raised concerns on the slow pace of the identification process. Hlabisa also says this could be attributed to factors including relatives visiting mortuaries to identify bodies without proof of identity. He addressed the media in Mthatha yesterday.
Then you ask a question as to there were so many people, why the number is low. There could be a number of factors because you need to correctly identify yourself before you identify the deceased. Now, some people will go there with no document to identify the deceased. There can be so many, and they will need to undergo a process of affidavits to ensure that not a wrong person makes an identification, even if it might be correct.
Anti-gang unit detectives in Cape Town are searching for men who shot and killed alleged underworld kingpin Andre Naudé. 55-year-old Naudé was gunned down yesterday. Late last night, detectives were still combing the crime scene for clues. Vania van der Heever reports.
Police say a vehicle pulled up next to the deceased, who was in the company of friends, and the occupants of the vehicle fired several shots. Naudé was killed and a 61-year-old man wounded. Two other men aged 45 and 54 escaped injury. A case of murder and 3 attempted murders were opened for investigations. No arrests have been made. Naudé's killings follow that of another alleged underworld leader, Mark Liffman, who was gunned down in Georgia a few months ago. Naudé, Liffman, and alleged sexy boy boss, Jerome Boyson, were on trial in the High Court for the murder of alleged steroid smuggler Brian Weinstein.
The US says it was not involved in Israel's attack of Iran. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Israel has told him it needed to act in self-defense. He's also warned Iran against targeting any US sites in the Middle East. Earlier, Israel said it launched dozens of military strikes on sites linked to Iran's nuclear program. Iranian state television said there had been loud explosions in the capital, Tehran. Israel's defense has declared a state of emergency in the country, saying revenge strikes are expected. The BBC's Tom Bateman reports.
You have an absolute distancing of the United States from the actions of its key ally in the region, Israel, tonight. And it has been very clear that there has been growing tension between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump over the possibility of this happening. Basically, Mr. Trump has been telling the Israeli leader it doesn't want him to do it. Clearly, the Israelis think that they now have their opportunity to do this. They think that the Iranians are as debilitated as they are going to be in the region after all of the activity and everything that happened last year, particularly with the decimation of Hezbollah in Lebanon.
And today is Friday the 13th, supposedly the unluckiest day. But why do people always think something bad is going to happen when it comes around? Well, the truth is that no one's sure what the exact origin of the superstition is. The number 13 and Friday both have a long history of bringing bad luck. It's the combination of the two that makes the day the most feared. Recapping the top story, humanitarian aid organization Gift of the Givers and the Al Imdad Foundation say they've intensified their emergency and rescue efforts in flood-hit areas in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Here's some breaking news you might have missed. Gordon, a 44-year-old man, switched to Outsurance and now saves an unbelievable 2,794 Rand a month on his 2019 Ford Everest 2-litre automatic. Outsurance clients always get something out. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus is building depth and experience, which he says is key to Springbok growth. And in cricket, Kagiso Rabada and the Proteas, they are shining at the World Test Championship. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. On the cusp of a long weekend, traffic volumes very much lighter this morning. There are some exceptions around some incidents. One in Pretoria, Roger Dyson, traffic lights down at 4 Trekker Road. That is quite heavy coming away from the industrial side. The R21 jamming past Tembisa into roadworks by Olifantsfontein, and a crash scene on Winnie Mandela coming from off the 511 Dipsford into Fourways just by Lone Hill Boulevard, Uranium Street, causing some delays. Also a crash on Bowling Avenue before Kelvin Drive, southbound, holding you up towards the Woodmead area. Durban, the M7 going into Pinetown, a crash by the N3 highway. That's a queue back to Hans Detman. Very heavy from Cliffdale down to Key Ridge on your way to Durban. That's a broken down truck at the bottom of Key Ridge, causing a really big backlog for Durban bound traffic. And Cape Town, not too bad. There is a crash on Baden Powell at Witstrand. If you're heading across to Muizenberg, that's quite slow. And no traffic lights this morning on the N2 at Reunion Drive in the heart of Somerset West. That's very busy already and likely to stay busy with long weekend volumes. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Really do appreciate it. You're listening to The Morning Brief. My name is Oliver Dixon. Thank you so much for being with us. Really do appreciate it. In this hour, we're going to be speaking about the Urban 20 Sherpa meeting that took place in lead up to the G20 meeting later on this year. The mayor of the city of Tshwane has played host to this alongside the mayor of the city of Johannesburg and delivered a opening address, Dr. Nasipi Moya, yesterday to set the tone for the Urban 20 African Mayors Assembly and Sherpa meeting. I'm going to be speaking to Dr. Musa Khumalo, who is a governance support officer, about that in this hour. We're also going to be trying to bringing you an update on the ongoing attacks between Israel and Iran. It's currently taking place. Iran currently retaliating against Israeli strikes. And then a little bit later on, we're going to be speaking to Advocate Mthunzi Maga of the NPA. He's the spokesperson thereof. We're going to be speaking about that judgment that came out in the Supreme Court of Appeal yesterday that overturned the acquittal of several individuals accused in the Nulane investment corruption case. The Supreme Court of Appeal had ordered for a retrial of that case. We're going to be speaking to the NPA about that a little bit later on in the hour. All of that and more coming up. You can be a part of it. 086 000 2032. Give me a call. 086 000 2032. You can send me your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter and Oliver Dixon on Facebook. 9 minutes after 8.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals. After a successful career representing the likes of Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns and SuperSport United, Tusopala tackles the property business. Join us as he breaks down his impressive portfolio and lets us in on his plans for the future. Streaming on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturday, 14 June at 8:30 p.m. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
11 minutes after 8 o'clock, we're taking some of your calls and reactions. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Let's go to the lines. Matimba out in Cape Town. How much do you pay in rent over there?
Hi, morning, Oliver. Morning to the SAFM listeners. I'm in Cape Town. I pay 9,200.
My goodness.
The lot.
Yeah, it really is quite a lot. And in what area? In what area is that?
I'm in the southern suburbs, further down after Wynberg. So I think that's
what's towards after Rondebosch, towards Rondebosch?
No. Towards Rondebosch, you are going to town, but I'm going towards Muizenberg.
Oh, towards Muizenberg.
You know, like where Constantia is.
Yes, Constantia. Yeah.
I see that side. Further down when you're going towards Muizenberg.
So you're close to Bishop. So you're in a nice area. So you're paying a premium because of that.
Yes, the area is very, very safe. I'm not going to lie, but there are things that I feel like we get ripped off on, you know. Like my unit, for example, doesn't come with parking. I have to pay like an extra 300 rand for parking. And I have 2 cars. That's like
wait. Your landlord makes you pay 300 rand for parking?
Yes, imagine, Oliver. Now I'm paying extra 600 for parking. That brings it to 9.8 before water and electricity and everything else.
My goodness.
And
what I would assume utilities are another additional 1,500, 2,000 rand?
Yes. Actually, the electricity goes much faster here. I don't know why.
Yeah. My goodness, so that's basically about 11,000, 12,000 rand out of pocket every single month.
Yes, for just the upkeep, And sometimes, you know, it's the way it is this side in Cape Town, they give you an offer, you get hooked. When you are there, they start presenting these things. You cannot bribe. You cannot do X, Y, Z.
Right.
Your car there. You have to now pay extra. You say, for example, I was not paying for parking when I got here, and I had 2 cars. Suddenly, they just reintroduced this thing saying, no, now you're going to pay like 300 per car. And it's like when you go to a chicken outlet and you want to buy your 3 pieces, and now they tell you all of a sudden it's no longer 60 rand, it's 70 rand. You know, you have to make the compromise on the spot. Do I move out or do I just pay for the sake of paying? Getting all the benefits. You know, like the area is safe, to be honest. I'm a stand-up comedian. You know, we come back very late sometimes.
Yeah.
I once called into a show. I was driving like very late. I never worry about safety. Right now, I just came back from dropping off my son from school, and I'm still laying on the bed. I'll just take a bath and then go to work.
Yeah, the good life of stand-up comedy.
Here and there, but when the money goes out, you really see it that now it's going out.
Yeah, absolutely. Matimba, thanks a lot for that. I really do appreciate it. I mean, paying 12,000 rand in the southern suburbs of Cape Town, I just can't imagine how an ordinary working class person can afford that. My goodness. Jimmy in Khobokwane, good morning.
Good morning, Oliver. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Go for it.
Good. Mr. Oliver, I want to touch on the issue of the national dialogue initiated by the president.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that a country cannot be developed by those who have destroyed it. I think the problem here is we don't have the proper channels where we can hold our leaders accountable. So if we had proper channels where communities, people on the ground, are able to can hold the leaders accountable, the national dialogue wouldn't be necessary because we know exactly where to hold our leaders accountable. And I strongly believe that maybe this dialogue, the president is not the right candidate to initiate it. maybe it should have been initiated by independent institutions. Even on the list, I was looking on the name of the people appearing there. Prominent names like Reverend Chikane, the former Chief Justice Mogoeng, Professor Lesiwa Tefo, Vusi Thembekwayo, all those people, they were supposed to at least be part of that particular list.
Yeah.
But if you can look at the people that are on those lists, they're the people that one can say they've got a soft spot for the president. So they won't be critical in terms of engaging him on these matters that really affect us. But if, in a nutshell, if we had proper channels for accountability, holding leaders accountable, I don't think this national dialogue was going to be necessary. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it. Let's speak to Smith out in Mthatha. Smith, good morning. Smith?
Oliver, this is Mandla.
Sorry, my apologies. Mandla, go for it.
Yes. I think on this dialogue story, we should rather be calling it a referendum on the main issues that are troubling society, so that at the end of the day, government can move with orders that this is what the citizens want and not do anything else. But the reason I called is in regard to the flood in Mthatha. I think the last time I spoke to you was about the Oval Room visit by Ramaphosa, our president, and his team. I remember I said to you, if the country is scared that they may not be treated well, I'll remote control it so that they are favored. And indeed, I did it. I remember I was in the hotel room when I was watching them, and I remote controlled everything in their favor, as I promised. Now, when I wrote to Minister Hlabisa, I have some emails, I have some X and other social media I sent to him that let me help COGTA prevent these disasters, whether floods and other types of disasters, because I can communicate with the weather. One thing you don't know, one thing most of us may not know is that weather is a being. It lives. It has a soul that some of us can communicate with. And I'm able to do that.
Okay.
So I told him on a number of communities before they happened, because the strange thing, the government is able to pay people to do repairs, as it is happening now, but they are not able to pay me to prevent it from happening. I wrote to the South African Weather Service.
So Manda, in what way would you prevent disasters from happening?
You communicate with the weather. When the meteorologists on TV tell us tomorrow it's going to be rainy, it's going to be windy, and I'm looking at it there, hearing them say it, I communicate with it that must not happen. It's going to change and become the other way, which would be favorable.
So you have supernatural powers to prevent disasters, Mandla?
I do it, and I've done it a number of times, Oliver. I can send you emails when I was communicating.
So why do you need the government to prevent if you can prevent disasters yourself?
The thing I'm complaining about is, why must I do it for free when other people get paid to do repairs?
So you want to get get paid to prevent a disaster of which you have supernatural powers for, Mandla? I'm not sure that's a good application of your powers. Mandla, thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it. I am on time. Mandla, I do have to take one more call. Zbu in Soweto, good morning. Go for it.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Go for it.
Good. Oliver, the national dialogue that Cyril Ramaphosa is talking about, and these other people, it's necessary. It's necessary, not really that it will solve the economic issue, but I think the bias is towards talking together as South Africans, looking at our problems as South Africans, whether you are the different ethnic group, bring them together. Let's assure each other that we need to build this South Africa. Whether you are business, let's assure each other that we want to work together, listen to each other, work together to solve the problems. It is very, very important that we bring each other together, like, during the 1994. We assure each other. We look at each other's problems, try and solve them. We may not solve all of them, but at least assure each other that let's work together. Look at, Transnet. We're working together with business. And these are key issues. Now, I'm coming to the second dialogue, which is the dialogue of a black man, an African man, failing to deliver. I'm talking about across Africa. Yes, I don't want to say every black man is failing to deliver, but we've got less than 10% of us, me, delivering. That's why the government is failing. We had Jacob Zuma. He failed dismally. He's coming up with MK. What is he going to do for us? ANC has tried, but you can see that black men fail again. We need to talk to ourselves, have negotiation or discussions about ourselves, and say, where is our weakness? And admit that we are weak here. I'll give you an example. If I become a councillor today, in 5 years' time, my neck will be as big as a pig's neck. I'll be driving the latest BMW. It shows that my social value, and this is what is happening.
Not that I'm defending councils, but I don't know how many councils people know in real life. They don't actually live like that. I know we have this idea that politicians are all corrupt and they all get paid a lot of money and they all live lavishly. But I actually interact with a lot of politicians. The vast majority of them don't live the sort of lavish life that we think they do. Not to excuse the behavior of those who don't deliver, but I do think we need to be a little bit more realistic in how we describe that. But thanks a lot for that call. Really appreciate it. It's 22 minutes after 8.
It's Roll or Be Rolled in the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2. Elimination Week is all about pasta. After learning the art of making fresh pasta from the team at Scala in Cape Town, contestants must present their own unique spin on this Italian classic. Who will earn a spot in the next round and who's going home? Find out on the Tastemaster SA Tuesday evenings at 7:30. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
The Blue Diamonds want to play their hearts out to secure important 3 points. But Masandawana ladies believe victory belongs to them. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the big clash of giants, JVW ladies and Mamelodi Sundowns ladies, the Sunday 15 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
X at SAFM Radio and at Oliver_speaking.
Sorry, is it just me, or does anyone else not believe Mandla, who just called in saying he's got supernatural powers to prevent a disaster from happening? I mean, if you had such power, why would you want to get paid for it if you could just prevent scores of people from dying? I don't know how he makes this power come about. That sounds a little bit ridiculous. Give me a call. Let me know what your thoughts were on that. Really appreciate you being comfortable to share some of the outrageous things that we sometimes encounter here on the radio. The mayor of the city of Tshwane and the mayor of the city of Johannesburg had held a Sherpa meeting for the Urban 20 work stream in the lead up to the G20. Dr. Musa Khumalo, who's a governance officer and government support officer for the city of Tshwane, is here to join us. Dr. Khumalo, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Give us a sense of why this was an important Sherpa gathering.
Good morning, and thanks for the invite. It's an important one because, as you know, that the South Africa is currently as the chair of the presidency of the G20, which is coming up later in the year. So the U20 is sort of a precursor to that event. So it was very important, one, from a hosting of this particular event, but also to bring together then the professionals, because the U20 is more of a gathering of the Sherpa event is more of a gathering of professionals within these big cities, and currently are involved in different streams discussing various issues ranging from social inclusivity, housing, issues of financing of infrastructure projects and smart city. So it's been a very critical event that is enabling that platform for exchange of ideas and as I said, an opportunity to have this event before the G20 that's coming up.
Yeah. What were some of the key issues and themes highlighted by the mayor yesterday that opened the gathering?
Yes, so one is obviously the social challenges that we all face as cities. We're under pressure in terms of the inward immigration, the lack of housing, the issues of financing of infrastructure, and of course the issues of climate change and environmental challenges that we all face as cities, and that is what the mayor touched on in her speech and as well as in the engagement with the African Mayors side event.
Yeah. What's on the rest of the agenda for the Sherpa?
The rest of the agenda today, so we have a couple of engagements that are critical. One is the Energy Summit. You'll know that the issues of energy sustainability are a key issue in the city, and the city of Tshwane is having engagements on how we're going to use our power stations, the involvement of IPPs and the financing thereof. There is one event. We also have a side event on innovation and knowledge management, where there will be exchange of ideas around what the different cities around the world are doing to embrace innovation and cultivate the culture of innovation in their cities. And one of the events that will be responsible for it's the Smart City Side event, which will focus amongst others on what the cities have done to improve things like safe cities and policing in cities and how we can all deal with that. We know issues of crime and security are big issues in these metropolitan cities. So that is one, and then there will also be a focus on smart waste and recycling. We know as well that there's quite a lot of pressure in our cities on issues of landfill and space and management of illegal dumping and waste management as a value chain. So those are the events that are coming up today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that update, Dr. Musa Khumalo. I really do appreciate it. Dr. Musa Khumalo is a governance support officer for the city of Tshwane. Zai is here with your latest in sports.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, I see Rassi said he had a squad of over 80 people. Many of them are injured, so only what 57?
54.
54?
Yeah.
So wait. And 54 are conscripted.
To war. It's literally war.
It is. It's conscription, this thing. And 10 are in injury, or 10 on injury list of various degrees.
So Russ is not having to rotate at the moment. He's having to reinvent.
Imagine having a pool of so much to choose from. And then choosing all of them.
Rassi is going deep, real deep, okay? And we've got Future Stars Deep that's being unveiled in his 54-man training group, mixing a bit of veterans with 9 uncapped players. And he explains his strategy as essential preparation for the 2027 Rugby World Cup, using competitive camps to accelerate younger players' development and prevent overloading of senior players.
But there's the old saying, if you look too far ahead, you forget about the present. So, no, we want to try and win all the games. Well, go with the mindset of trying to win all the games. That's not being arrogant. And that's the mindset we want to go in with. But for sure, we're not going to use only 25, 27 players this year. The plan is to really broaden not just squad depth, also experience. Not to just guys, just 1 and 2 caps. So when we get to the next World Cup, hopefully we don't have lots of players under 15 caps. That would be ideal.
On to some cricket action. Proteas batter David Bedingham describing the World Test Championship as being on a knife's edge, stating that it's still anyone's game as they head into day 3 at Lord's. He acknowledged that South Africa has the chance to take control from their Australian rivals and might have sufficient time to do so in the 4th innings. Now, after being bowled out for 138 just after lunch on day 2, the Proteas delivered another impressive bowling performance, restricting the Australians to 144 for 8, leaving them with a lead of 218. Now, of course, the team is led by Captain Temba Bavuma, and Bedingham says they'll have to keep the attitude of coming out guns blazing.
I think we definitely showed more intent today. I think myself, Thames, and probably Kyle tried. I think it was tough on that pitch, but I think that will probably be the way we go about it in the fourth innings. Personally, I don't think the Australians gave us any bad balls. I think the boundaries were hit or were decent balls. But I think that's why they're the best in the world, I think. So hopefully going forward we can just counteract that and win the World Test Championship.
And finally, New Zealand All Blacks legend Sonny Bill Williams says he's ready for his fight with ex-NRL great Paul Gallen when the two face off in a boxing showdown of former rugby stars tomorrow in Sydney, Australia. The two-time Rugby World Cup champion Williams is stepping back into the ring after almost 3 years for what he says will be his final fight. Well, speaking of comebacks, I'll be back with Spotlight. That's on Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Sport meeting music. I'll catch you then. Bye for now.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein is today set to hear the National Prosecuting Authority's application for leave to appeal a recent ruling. The court had ruled the extradition of former Premier Ace Magashule's former personal assistant, Murwari Cholota, from the US last year had been unlawful. Humanitarian aid organization Gift of the Givers and the Al Imdad Foundation say they've intensified their emergency and rescue efforts in flood-hit areas in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. And preparations are being finalized for the arrival of the first group of SANDF members from the DRC in the country today. The South African troops who had been deployed to the eastern DRC as part of the SADC mission are expected to arrive at the Air Force Base Bloemspruit in Bloemfontein at midday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Pretoria looking fine, no major problems to hold you up around the capital city area, although just watch the N14 going inbound, top of the N14 to Gogosi Monpuru. That looks like it could be a bit slow. William Mandela coming out of Danefern on your way to Fourways. Crash earlier this morning down by Lone Hill Boulevard, Uranium, still causing delays as well. And a crash at Marlborough Drive at the Mike 1 Highway, backlogging traffic both ways there. Also looks like a potential crash on the R24 just approaching the airport, going out from Edenvale into Kempton Park, the R24, out towards the R21. There's some quite heavy build-ups there as well. Cliffdale to Keeridge on the N3. The stationary truck this morning has been cleared. There's another one. So one had cleared. I thought that might be the case. The backlog was enormous and absolutely guaranteed for another truck to break down. So Cliffdale to Keeridge stays heavy with yet another stationary truck. M13 away from the N3 Sherwood over the N2 towards Westville. There's some very heavy backlogging going on there today. Cape Town, generally easy, just a bit of traffic over the elevated freeway into the CBD, and some of you would keep an eye on all day today. The traffic lights on the N2 at Somerset West Reunion Drive are down. That's likely to be a busy route, that N2, with long weekend volume set to get out of Cape Town using that N2. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
It's 33 minutes after 8 o'clock, and Ndawleng is back with the business update in this hour. And Ndawleng, we start out with some business news this morning, taking a look at mining production decrease indicators for April.
The mining industry continued its downward trend in the beginning of the second quarter, with output declining by 7.7% in April. Now, this was worse than expectations as traders pegged in a contraction of 4.3%. This decline marks the sector's sixth consecutive month of downturn. High input costs, low metal prices, and logistics issues have weighed on the sector. Now, the PGM market was the main driver of the decline, with production plunging over 24% in April. PGM producers have been cutting back on production due to low prices and uncertain demand, but there might be light at the end of the tunnel as we've seen a rally in platinum prices. Those gains, however, could be capped by the stronger rand price and the logistical issues. Coal production also one of the negative contributors. That sector reported a 1.7% decline on output. Despite those declines, mineral sales increased by 0.7%, driven by a surge in gold sales. In the meantime, the Minerals Council SA expects an improvement in production in the coming months. And so they're pegging growth on a quarter basis at 1.6%, provided that output levels in May and June come in strong.
Yeah, not all doom and gloom as Southern Palladium secures funding for expansion plans.
Yes. Now, the junior Australian miner listed on the JSE has secured 100 million rands to accelerate the development of the Bengwenyama Platinum Group Metals projects in South Africa. The company has raised, as mentioned, around 100 million rand through a placement of 16 million new shares. The proceeds will be used to advance the next phase of definitive feasibility study and staged mine development of at Bengwenyama. The placement was initiated by one of the company's largest shareholder. An executive chair, Roger Baxter, said the strategic placement provides financial support at a critical juncture in the project's development. Noted that the strong support from existing institutional investors and new institutional investment marks a vote of confidence in the project's quality and development strategy. Markets welcomed the move, with the share price jumping 33% in yesterday's session.
Yep, let's take a look at those market indicators about 25 minutes before the markets open.
So local markets likely to open mixed, stocks not exposed to commodities likely to be in the red, while oil and gold counters likely to make gains today. Riskier assets taking a knock this morning, with all eyes on the Middle East. The rand and major emerging market currencies on back foot. The local unit nearing that 18 rand mark to the dollar. It's sitting at 17.97 this morning. Tensions between Israel and Iran also sending U.S. futures lower after a positive showing overnight. It's also red screens in Asia, those markets on track to end the week on a negative note.
Yep. Ndaleng, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. And Ndaleng will be back on Monday. Well, Monday's a public holiday, so on Tuesday, giving you the latest in the markets. I'm taking your calls and reactions, 086 000 2032 to any of that. I'm going to be speaking to the NPA in a very short while. Very important judgment coming out of the Supreme Court of Appeal.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
The Blue Diamonds want to play their hearts out to secure important 3 points. But Masandawana ladies believe victory belongs to them. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the big clash of giants, JVW ladies and Mamelodi Sundowns ladies, the Sunday 15 June at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Got a Standard Bank business account and self-service banking? You could win up to 5,000 Rand cash every day next week in the Standard Bank self-service quiz. SMS Standard Bank self-service to 45787 for a chance to be selected. Answer 2 easy questions about Standard Bank self-service banking to be a winner. Tune in every day next week on the Midday Link-Up to see if it's you. Standard Bank. It can be. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
It is 20 minutes to the top of the hour. So I want to take you back to 2023 a little bit, where a High Court judgment was so scathing of the NPA. It said the NPA had no evidence for the case it was bringing, poorly prepared, and that it didn't meet the lowest of thresholds to show any form of just cause in that matter. This was in relation to the Nulane case, a lot of which we learned about during the State Capture Commission in relation to the Estina dairy farm. The NPA, aggrieved by the High Court, had approached the Supreme Court of Appeal, not necessarily to appeal the case, but to have a review of the legal adjudication therein. The Supreme Court of Appeal said the judgment by the High Court judge was so terrible, so scathing, it made 9 material errors of law, and the Supreme Court of Appeal had found in favor of the NPA in this instance and had ordered a retrial of the case. Advocate Mthunzi Makga, who is the spokesperson of the NPA, now joins us. Mthunzi, good afternoon. Good morning, rather. Sorry. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Oliver, and good morning to your listeners.
What is the case that the NPA brought before the Supreme Court of Appeal?
Come again?
What is the case that the NPA brought before the Supreme Court of Appeal that now led to the Supreme Court of Appeal ordering a retrial?
One point of correction. In your intro, you say this was not an appeal but a review. That is inaccurate. It was an appeal in terms of Section 319 of the Criminal Procedure Act. Because in terms of our legal system, the state or the prosecution can only appeal on limited grounds by reserving or asking the trial court to reserve questions of law. So what happened is that we were aggrieved by the wrong judgment of the acting judge, Gusha, in 2023. And we sought to appeal that judgment because we felt she misdirected herself in applying the legal principles applicable in consideration of an application for a discharge of an accused person after the state had called all its witnesses and closed its case. She said there was not sufficient evidence that warranted accused persons to be put to their defense and therefore respond to the allegations and acquitted them. Secondly, she also made an error in saying that the Section 204 witness, who is an accomplice witness, was not approached the Supreme Court of Appeal that has now agreed with us and made it clear that we can now proceed to reinstate the charges against all the accused that had been acquitted. We are now finalizing reading and interrogating the judgment in order to refine our indictment so that we can round up the accused and cause them to appear before the High Court before a different judge.
Yeah. Of course, there's issues now around whether or not the judge president of the division should have assigned this case of such complexity to an acting judge. Does the NPA have any thought around that?
We had raised this in our internal discussions during and after the judgment, but we did not take it forward because we did not want people to see it as a scapegoat or as an excuse that we are diverting from the actual judgment that she delivered. It was something that was of concern to us because this was a first state capture-related corruption case, complex as it was, with a lot of evidence being documentary, forensic reports and all of that. And you are locating it to a regional court magistrate who is acting as a judge. That to us was a concern, but we didn't take it further. So I think I've answered your question.
Yeah. Is the NPA going to bring the exact same case, or you said the case will be refined? Refined to what exactly?
Obviously, there will be a reflection of the judgment itself and relook at what we have. And if there's a necessity to revise or refine the indictment, that consideration will be made. But I don't have details at the moment because, remember, I'm not the actual prosecutor that's leading the case. The prosecution team is the one that is undertaking that process.
Yeah. The NPA hasn't had much luck in terms of in the courts in high-profile cases recently. In fact, the NPA is going through a public relations nightmare, so to speak. To what extent does this help restore some confidence that the public has in the NPA? At least how much confidence do you hope gets restored off of this?
I think, Oliver, it is a confidence booster for our prosecutors who've been vilified unfairly to some extent, and their prosecutorial prowess, prosecutorial capacity and strength has been put to question by many, including the so-called legal analysts, who I, with respect, consider to be legal commentators, because some don't even read the judgment, but they will formulate a view. So it will actually boost their confidence. I know that there has been a slow pace in terms of getting convictions in state capture-related cases. But you must understand that these cases are quite complex, and therefore the defense actually have highly paid counsel who bring in interlocutory application that have the undesirable effect of delaying the trials, making it quite protracted. But if you have regard to the fact that, Oliver, in state capture-related cases, we have managed to obtain freezing orders to the tune of 14.2 billion, 8.2 billion of which has been deposited to the criminal asset recovery account. So our asset recovery strategic tool is actually yielding the desired result and injecting some money into the fiscus.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Really do appreciate it. Advocate Mthunzi Makga, who is the spokesperson of the NPA. I'm taking your reactions to that. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
What if you open up more? Open up to learning and experiencing more of Mzansi and abroad? What if you open up culture and explore the extraordinary, from music to drama and the latest fashion? What if you open up your wild side, discover a world of skyscraping cities and brown sugar beaches? What if you open up your kitchen and immerse yourself in cuisines from all corners of the world? What if you open up your voice with all eyes on you without being seen? What if you open up your morning to lekker conversations and world-class entertainment? What if you open up more?
Hey, Paul, what's the rush?
I'm off to SARS. I want to check if I'll be auto-assessed.
No need. If you're auto-assessed, SARS will send you a notice between 7 and 20 July.
So I just wait for the notice?
Exactly. If you get the notice, check it. And if you agree, you're done. Disagree, file using e-filing or the SARS Mobi app. If you don't get the notice, file from 21 July. Make tax matters your priority. Go to sars.gov.za and say goodbye to queues. SARS, at your service.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just out in the Eastern Cape, a major truck crash a little bit earlier this morning. It's south of Cradock, so the roadway is currently blocked off, and there's some very heavy backlogging. There is an alternative route, sort of just north of the R390, which motorists and truckers seem to be being diverted along. So just a heads up, if you're going Cradock down to sort of Cookhouse area, there's some very heavy backlogging on that N10 into that big truck crash, and some diversion pressures as well to work around. A reminder of the protesting as well. St Barnabas Hospital between Mthatha and Port St John, about halfway through, there's been some protest-related blockages of that R61. It might be better to travel later today. Heading out towards the airport from Joburg, a collision on the R24, quite a big one, just past Barbara Road. Traffic very quickly pushing back towards sort of Edenvale, so it looks heavy. If you're on your way to the airport, make sure you got time to get through that. Roadworks on the R59 near Michelle Avenue, driving up into Joburg. That's quite a heavy backlog to work through. And roadworks on the R21 this morning, just up by the Olifantsfontein exit, quite slow passing Tembisa on your way to Pretoria. Durban, heavy pressure coming south on the N2. There is a crash as you link off the N2 onto the N3 to turn into Durban via Spaghetti Junction, so that's a queue right back as far as Umgeni Road. M13 coming off the N3 at Sherwood towards Westville through that construction at the N2 bridge. That's unusually heavily backed up this morning. And Cape Town, if you're going out of town for the long weekend, a lot of people are expected to do that. There's still no traffic lights on the N2 at Reunion Drive between Somerset West and Gordons Bay, and it's already quite slow both ways. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
It's 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm taking your calls and WhatsApp voice note reactions. Give me a call. 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial. Let's have a listen at some of your WhatsApp voice notes.
Hi, Oliver. This is Pity from Kabeja. Good morning. With regards to the remuneration that your guest is speaking about, and I hear him speaking about women and men that is not equally paid. It's not only that. What about white and colored and black people? You walk into a space, you do the same work as a white man, but the white man gets paid more than you. So what about that?
Morning. Musimai money for me makes a lot of sense. Why do you require my previous payslip if you wanna employ me? Because that does not make sense for me. That's where we are exploited as employees. It makes sense. Viva. Musimai money. Viva.
Good morning, Oliver, and your team there, including the SFM listeners. You know, with regards to Musi Maimane and whatever he's proposing, you know, let's make sense of things. That doesn't really make any economic sense because we employ people based off of their experience and criteria that fits the job description. So whatever you're saying, let's just make sense of it. It really doesn't make sense, right? That just shows that he doesn't have any workspace experience. Daniel here in Bryanston.
Good morning, Oliver. Hey, you know, it's funny when you go through social media. I saw a meme last night showing that our comrades in Eastern Cape smiling, waiting for the disaster funds to be released by government. I really hope those ones don't get lost or chowed by these politicians. Hope they serve what the purpose they are meant for.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Let's go to the line. Zola and Bloemfontein. Zola, good morning.
Good morning, Oliver.
Zola, go for it. What's on
good
your
morning
mind?
Yes, sir. Oliver, I think the national dialogue is a very important initiative. But I thought that the president would also include the former president, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, Dr. Padile Hotla, because those people have been working with the people on the ground in court and all over, and also go to different NGOs or trade unions to say they must come up with names, proposed names who will run with this process. But if he pick names, I'm afraid that he will pick the yes sir, ladies and gents. So I think he must reconsider the names which he has included.
Yeah,
that will run this project.
Okay, interesting thoughts you have there. I must say, I was also curious about President Thabo Mbeki, for instance, not being a part of the eminent persons leading this, given that he had been strongly advocating himself for a national dialogue to take place. Yeah.
I'm in tears. Oliver, I'm in tears. Please, you took off Mandla too early. He was explaining to us that he can prevent natural. Oh yes, but please, I think I speak on a lot of South Africans. He's got me. Okay, firstly, I'm in tears, but secondly, can we possibly get the number of his dealer?
Yeah.
Morning, Oliver. I think you're being unfair to Umandla. If what he says is actually true, then he deserves to be paid, because the likes of the doctor that killed so many South Africans was paid by the state to do so. If he's got powers to save the people in the country, then the state must actually pay him. He's got powers. I mean, his ancestors don't give him that power to share it for free. He needs to make money out of his powers.
Peter here in Peter Marisburg. Olivia, we've heard of people like Mandla that are able to change the weather. But I'm not sure about preventing, but we've heard that people can just send thunder into your house, you know. But we're not sure whether that's true or not. But there are some instances, but it's hard to believe.
Yeah, apparently in Limpopo you can buy thunder for someone, lightning to strike someone specifically. I'm not sure that's the same as preventing a flood from happening altogether.
Hi, Oliver. So I'm challenging Mandla to do a demonstration for us non-believers. Maybe you can video to call it, I don't know, video stream it, do a demonstration for us as the nation to witness his powers. And then maybe then we'll also write a petition for him, Shem, to motivate the government to pay him. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Let's have a listen at this.
Good morning, Oliver. Look, Mania. Listen, that premier of the Eastern Cape is the most useless premier ever. He's been there forever. And nothing has changed in the Eastern Cape. Everybody's leaving the Eastern Cape to various other provinces because there's nothing going on there. I can't understand why the ANC and the ANC voters are not requesting and demanding that guy must be fired. Honestly, there's nothing going on in the Eastern Cape. And they can't even run the Eastern Cape on a Sunday. How are they going to run the Eastern Cape now with this disasters? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Mike in Newlands, good morning.
Yeah, good good morning, Oliver. I just want to, I'm a big fan of Musi Maimane, but I think he's just off the plot there, and I think it speaks to what he wants to do with trying to micromanage business. I think the one problem we have in our country is we have a small business, a minister of small business and SMEs who have never ever run a business. And with respect to Musi Maimane, I don't think he has either. You know, people leave employment to go to other employment for whatever reason. And you can't legislate what a company must pay a guy when he arrives. Maybe this guy rocks up there and he's really good, but the company says, listen, we can't pay you. And they can only pay, by the way, not what's legislated, but what's on what they can afford as a company to remain in business. But they can offer him other things and say, listen, we'll give you a directorship down the line, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. So many other negotiations go on behind the scenes.
If that's the case, then make the offer independent of what you think the person is worth based on what they were previously paid.
No, it doesn't matter what he was previously paid.
That's exactly what Musi's saying.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's the point, isn't it? That he's leaving his other company. He sees a better option coming to my company. And I say to him, well, I can't offer you what you were paid. I'm not interested in what you were paid. If you were paid 20,000 Rand a month, I can only offer you 15 or 10.
Yeah, Musi's making the argument Musi's making the argument that those who look to employ you ask for your payslip from your previous employment for the express purpose of curtailing what they think your value is or to continue the exploitation, rather than saying, here's the job, here's the offer, this is what we can afford, this is what we're willing to pay, not based on what you were previously paid. So I think you guys are on the same page. I'm not sure that you're quite disagreeing with him here. Seems like we have lost Mike there in Newlands. My apologies for that. Let's have a listen at these WhatsApp voice notes.
Morning, Oliver. This national dialogue thing, I don't understand. I mean, the ANC has been in power for 30 years. Now, because they realize that they have failed, now there must be a national dialogue. I mean, are they not aware of the high levels of crime in the country? Are they not aware of the illegal immigration problem that we have? Are they not aware of the poverty problem that we have in the country? Thought they would be the ones in a better position to articulate these issues. But it's South Africa, you'll never know. We always recycle issues as if we don't know about them. Thanks.
Hello, Oliver. Daniel from the Free State. You know what? A leopard can never change its sport. Do you remember CR17? Mr. Ramaphosa is only trying to draw attention to himself. The same way as Mr. Mbeki should have done. We've got a constitution. Like the you don't need it. We have the constitution. Apparently, this thing of the national dialogue, my foot, is not going to work. If you can say, like, let's make referendum, they will never go for it. Mr. Ramaphosa has put the ANC under the bus. ANC is finished. Now he wants to draw attention to himself. If ever what, then he can make his own party. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. That brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for being with me over the last 2 days here on the Morning Brief. I'm back with you on the Morning Brief next week, Monday, standing in once again on the public holiday, June 16. Tulas, who I spoke to yesterday on the phone, says he's exhausted. He's on a bit of a holiday this weekend. Well deserved. So I'll be back in holding the fort till he's back on Tuesday. But for myself and the team, it's goodbye for now. Cheers.
In our top stories, NPA's application for leave to appeal Cholota ruling and humanitarian organizations intensify emergency and rescue efforts in Mthatha. The Free State High Court in Bloemfontein is today set to hear the National Prosecuting Authority's application for leave to appeal a recent ruling. The court ruled that the extradition of former Premier Ace Magashule's former personal assistant, Murwadi Cholota, from the US last year had been unlawful. This is another chapter of legal battles in the high-profile 255 million rand asbestos corruption scandal. Judge Philip Lopsche found that South African courts did not have jurisdiction to try Cholota on corruption that she and Magashule are charged with. He also said only the Justice Minister had the powers to request an extradition from the US government. Kamohelo Tsotetsi reports.